What is up, RotoGrinders? 3.5 hours of non-stop NFL DFS conversation starts right now. Week number 7. Myself, Dean Shavelson, joined by usual suspect Tim Buell, TastefulTides. Filling in is going to be Beer. Beer filling in today for Bobby Gomes. You know Beer from Six Pack, and if you're old enough, if you've been around long enough, remember Beer on the with the FanDuel magazine many years ago. The FanDuel, a lot of the FanDuel promotions out there. Beer, that was like 10 years ago. How long ago was that? That was a long time.
You're aging me. You see all the gray in my beard. At that time, it was all black, brown, youth. So yeah, long time.
They have products. I mean, I'm not saying you should use it. I'm aware that there's products in the market.
Never.
I respect it. Yeah, it works for you. You pull it off. You make it work.
Thank you. So, good to be here. So looks like we got a good crowd in the chat. We got a hell of a slate here. We got weather. We got injuries. We got people returning. So should be fun this week.
Yeah. So it's just a 10-gamer, another baby slate because we have a game going on right now in London. The Rams. A lot of the best receivers are not playing on this slate. Either they're injured or they're just not on this slate. You said the return of some players. Yeah, we got CeeDee Lamb back. We have Rashee Rice back. We have one game that's not like the other as far as totals. Dallas and Washington in the late slate, 5-6 points more than everybody else as far as team totals. We have some weather. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth. I'll go ahead and drop this in chat for the people. He wrote a lot of words about Miami and Cleveland. That's probably the one that people are most inspired by, worried by. But yeah, you guys can read this at your own leisure. What's up, Chad? Hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. Hit all those things. Hit all those buttons to help us keep the lights on. But yeah, there's officially, I'll just tell you the colors. You can read it on your own, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, organically throughout the conversation. We're here for an hour and a half until we yield to the next grouping. But yeah, New England, Tennessee, they're yellow. Yellow for the Carolina and the Jets. Some potential wind gusts around 25, 30 miles per hour, but sustained 15. But that's assuming they pass the ball there. And then neither team probably wants to pass the ball first. Certainly not the Jets. Miami and Cleveland, it's orange. I think people were freaking out a little bit more earlier in the week. But, in Roth, I assume at some point, we have 3.5 hours until the 1 o'clock games kick off. I assume he will give us an update. Weather is fluid. Weather will change. Also, yellow-orange in Chicago. Another game that's worth noting. So, Tim, good morning. How we feeling about week 7? You got the overview, the screenshot. Also, we were talking about this pre-show. Josh Jacobs, he's got a body part. Maybe he's still getting over an illness. We're not really sure. It's in the late game. They're saying it's an official game time decision, which means we won't know until after the 1 o'clock games kick off, unless some reporter comes out and tells us basically what's going on. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts on this slate. A lot of good tight ends, not a lot of amazing wide receivers. Some pretty good quarterbacks up top, and it's not that hard to get them. I don't know if Jaden Daniels is anybody to throw the ball to, left standing. That's the other part of it. I'm saving this one for you guys. This is what I like being the host, and we'll get to it obviously when we knock out our tiers and our game by game stuff. But trying to figure out who among Chris Moore, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane is the play, and it might just be Zach Ertz. I don't know. But Tim, how are we feeling about today's 10-gamer?
Yeah, I mean, I like this slate quite a bit. You mentioned it. There's a lot of different quarterbacks that you can play on this slate. I mean, we have one or two that are going to be really, really chalky, but I mean, there's even more that you could play here. So this is a very, very strong QB slate. There's definitely going to be quite a bit of value that we can get to today. You talked about the Washington wide receiver situation. That's an extremely cheap situation, going to be a pretty chalky situation for sure. So yeah, and then like you said, tight end pretty strong this week. We almost always play three running backs in cash games. I don't know if you necessarily have to do that. Like you can do that. I mean, a lot of optimals are currently giving the 3 RBs, but I think if there's ever a week to not do that or to get some leverage in GPPs to play 2 tight ends or an additional wide receiver, something like that, this would be the slate to do it. It's not that we don't have good running backs, but I just think that, there is some room to get a little bit different here just because tight end is so strong. And, there are a couple of decent, wide receiver plays that I think have massive upside. So I think if there's ever a week to get a little bit different in like single entry or something like that, this would be the slate to do it.
I do agree, and it is interesting. A lot of unknown stuff, and I think Lamb is fine. And Lamb said he's gonna, he could have went last week. Rashee Rice, of course, coming back from suspension. We're mostly expecting, we're projecting, just full go. He's good to go right out the gate. His price on DK is distinctly too low. On FanDuel, it's more like where it should be. He's going to be super, super popular. Just interesting that, kind of sort of unknowns. I guess Lamb was fine, a part of the best game environment in the slate, undeniably. Washington and Dallas, two of the most highly projected players currently on the slate. Beer, you're a general overview, and do you want to tease? Do you have a take with the Washington receiver core? I don't know. I have some thoughts, but I'm curious to get your general thought before we fully dive in on everything.
I think we'll all have some thoughts. Anyone that's going to come on here or anywhere and say that this is definitively the answer to that question, you may not want to listen to that person anymore because it is wide open. You throw Ertz in there as well, and who do you want to play? How many do you want to use? Maybe avoid them all. I think there's creative ways that you can play that where if those guys are going to be super chalky, I don't think you have to eat into it or play into it. This slate, it's weird to have wide receiver. It feels like the weakest position, which most weeks it's very strong. It's loaded, and there's certainly options. But I agree with you guys. I think quarterback, a lot of ways you can go. Running back is very intriguing this week. And the shift in ownership and running back, and we'll talk about it, has been kind of wild. Some guys have gone from chalk to everybody saying you can't play that guy, and other guys shooting up. Tight end, we are absolutely loaded with options, so there'll be some guys that get squeezed there. Wide receiver just feels a little weak. There's plenty of options, but to be the weakest position out of all four, just very interesting. But I agree with Tim. I really like this slate. I think there's a ton of different ways to build. Cash games, I think there's a clear couple guys you want to definitely get in there, and tournaments, there'll be some guys that go overlooked and forgotten that you could take advantage of.
Touch on it, Tim, as far as cash games. I know we kind of like what to get that out of the way. If there's any questions, we'd like to answer those as well. Pretty clear, I think, for cash games today. You have the money, and it makes sense to spend up on one of Mahomes or Daniels on both DK and FanDuel. I think that's a pretty clear route. And again, we'll get the tournaments. We'll talk about our tiers and things like that. But there's, I think, half the quarterbacks you can play today amongst the 20. I think there's at least 10. I'm like, yeah, I can tell a story. I can at least tell a story on that. Do you want, and then tight end, cash tight end should probably be Zach Ertz, just because he should probably get, some extra targets, a part of that game environment. I'm curious what to do with him in tournaments because, not typically the guy, unless he gets 2 touchdowns, 5 yards out. I guess that's something that's possible, but not typically, somebody that's the pedigree of a slate breaker. But you want to give me some thoughts, maybe quarterback, a couple of your running backs. I think it's amongst 5 or 6 guys, and receivers. A lot of it's just, everything is always sort of salary based, but it's weeks? Is it 7 weeks in a row? Chris Olave is hitting optimals. I feel like that's every single week. Chris Olave. He's getting a ton of balls thrown his way. I think he's waiting for some touchdowns as well. How are you handling cash games today?
Yeah, so it's definitely Jaden Daniels or Patrick Mahomes. I think it's Jaden Daniels on DK and Mahomes on FanDuel, where Mahomes is actually $700 cheaper. So it's Daniels, DK, Mahomes, FanDuel. You could, I guess, conceivably play Mahomes on DK for $100 more. I just don't think it's necessary, and that matchup against Dallas is just so amazing. So. I don't think you need to goof around and fade Jaden Daniels in cash games. So just play him. Running back, it's going to be Breece Hall. I think you're going to be starting off with him. I know that Carolina's run defense has been a little bit better, but it's still it's still going to be, Hall's offense now with Wilson out. So I think you're going to be starting off with Breece Hall as a cornerstone cash game piece. And then wide receiver, a cornerstone piece would be Rashee Rice coming back at 5,600. So you're definitely going to be playing him. And then Zach Ertz is going to be your tight end. That would be like my core group of guys. Some optimizers are giving out Josh Jacobs, who is a true game time decision. We were talking about that before the show. Some optimizers are giving out, Jonathan Taylor. Quinshon Judkins is a fantastic play at 6K. He's going to be a tremendously high owned. I know that our RG projections are giving out Judkins in our optimal build. So, I mean, he is definitely in the conversation. It's going to be, I think he's got a better ceiling than Breece Hall, just because Miami is just so terrible. And I'm a little bit worried that the Jets actually can't score touchdowns. So, it's,
for good
but
reason.
I mean, right. But I mean, Breece Hall is still a fantastic play. So, but I think those are some of the running backs that you could conceivably use. And then at wide receiver, you're right, like Chris Olave, Rashee Rice. Those are your mid-range guys. And then it's kind of interesting, like what we want to do with Justin Jefferson, what we want to do with CeeDee Lamb. It kind of depends on what projection source you're using. But I'm seeing like a significant gap between some sources between like 4 or 5 points here. So I think Jefferson is a little bit safer, but CD is obviously a fantastic play. And then, Chris Moore, you might want to just live in the 5K range and forget about Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. And then that way you can fade Chris Moore in cash and just play all like mid-range wide receivers, which I think is an option today. So you can get to somebody like Cortland Sutton or something like that, or Ladd McConkey. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, but I mean, if you're going to be picking one of those cheap Washington wide receivers, I think it's Chris Moore for cash, but any of those other guys you can definitely play in GPP.
I do agree. I think it's more in cash, but I think it's an interesting conversation for tournaments, which we'll have later on in the show. Beer, do you want to add any thoughts as far as cash? And I sort of mentioned the weather stuff, but I didn't really get your guys' take. Generally speaking, I try not to overreact to weather. I'm not terribly frightened about the weather that's out there lurking. I'm concerned that the Dolphins just stink and the Browns aren't good, and that's why the number is so low. And I love Judkins, and I like the Cleveland Brown defense to kind of pair with him. Your general thoughts? Anything you want to add on in general thoughts as far as weather today? Do we care?
A slight concern, but I mean, it's more so what you said. These teams just aren't good. So, I mean, the weather doesn't help. I think there's a couple plays in that game we can go to, but I'll be keeping an eye on it. It sounds like one of those situations, Roth is on top of it, but he even says, I can't tell you with conviction that this is what's going to happen, but I'm not overdoing it on the weather. 15-mile-an-hour winds, sure, that's about the line. You start getting 25, 30. Now you worry a little bit more, specifically about the passing games. We don't have to worry about kickers anymore, thank goodness. So we are that old where we used to have kickers in DFS. So yeah, so we are done with that, thank goodness. So I'm not overblowing the weather yet. Again, something you certainly want to keep an eye on. I don't want to undersell it either. It's something you want to watch here in the next couple hours, but nothing I'm seriously adjusting many things for.
I did run a bunch of optimal lineups on DK, added some variants, and the three most popular receivers, Lamb, coming back from injury. Rice hasn't played it down this season. Has he played football in a year? I feel like we haven't seen Rice in a long time. I assume he's fine and in good football shape and all that. And then Chris Moore. Chris Moore is the next guy. And then Jerry Jeudy, which I don't like, but I understand. I guess that one.
Even Chris Moore at 3K, it doesn't make you feel great. I mean, he's probably the best cash game option. I'll agree with you guys, but I don't think that's necessary. So if people want to go there and load up at other spots, I get it. But if he doesn't score that touchdown, we're still looking at him as the guy that's just out there running wind sprints. I mean, he's been out there a lot, hasn't done a whole lot. Yes, it's a much bigger opportunity here. So I agree with the other two. I think Rice is a slam dunk on DraftKings especially. Lamb, I don't think is a must. We'll get to Pickens, who I think is a nice pivot there, especially in tournaments. And more, I don't feel that it's necessary. Again, I understand the 3K to open some things up, but that one doesn't make you feel great.
I don't know if you guys are
that 5 to 6K. Sorry, that 5 to 6K range on DraftKings at wide receiver is really, really strong today.
Yes.
So that's another case to be made not to play Chris Moore in cash. I didn't even bring up AJ Brown, which was my bad. I mean, he's only 5,800. So I mean, that's just another guy that you can lump in there and just play all wide receivers in that 5 to 6K range. So you can't play Jefferson, you can't play CD, which I don't think is horrible today. So you just live in that mid range and forget about all that cheap Washington stuff for cash.
We have a touchdown in London, and if you guys haven't seen it, I'll give you 1,000 to 1 odds. You get 3 guesses on who scored.
I saw it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mumfield and Sons.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't play the showdown, and I know Puka's out. Was this guy pumped up at all? I have no.
I think it was more Whittington people were excited about. So if somebody threw Mumfield in there, they're off to a good start.
Yeah, Captain Mumfield. There you go. You're on your way there for the Rams. Oh, it is a Superstar Sunday. It's a Superstar Sunday. Producer TJ is on top of it. He's actually scrolling today's first clue. If you're not aware, Superstar Sunday, you get yourself a week free of RotoGrinders Premium. That's not just all the bells and all the whistles as far as football, as far as NFL, but you get college, NBA, literally right around the corner. It starts up on Tuesday. We do these shows for NBA as well, 5 o'clock, generally speaking, as far as our start time, pending the slate, pending the schedule and all that. Hockey, yeah, Tim, how those hockey streaks treating you early? You doing all right?
Yeah, we're doing well. I've had some big winners in the Discords. It's been a fun year so far. So definitely been good times doing the NHL product.
Do check out the Discord. Yeah, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Getting that NHL Discord. You guys, yourself, Dane, do a spectacular job. And just a lot of good people contributing in general. Just kind of figuring out lives and things of that sort. TJ as well. TJ, yes?
Just want to give double shout out the NHL team. I haven't had a big one yet, but I played 5 days this week, Monday through Friday, and I profited all 5 days.
Look at you. That's pretty impressive. Shout out to you.
Straight pulling it from the content. Like, I'll just throw a lineup in with the top stacks in the expert survey, cross-reference it with the projections. So just wonderful content.
All right. So how do you do that? How do you get yourself a week free of RG Premium? You be the first person in the Discord channel, different Discord channel. Do not tell me the NHL Discord. Tell me in the rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat channel. 1 guess per clue drop. Tell me what superstar I am talking about. It's not Bobby Gomes, but I do see Bobby Gomes in chat. Shout out to Bobby. He is, of course, a superstar, but it is not. And also Bobby does swear that he can throw a fastball at about 87 miles per hour, and he can run a 4.2. Getting out of bed. He's like the greatest 4-sport athlete since, I don't know, Babe Dietrichson. But okay. Hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. Hit all the things. Get your guesses in. Tell me what superstar we're talking about here, and you get yourself a week free of RG Premium. Do you guys want to do tiers? We want to do some tiers? Yes? How are we feeling about that? All right, beer. We did not let you in on this, just so you know. I wouldn't say intentionally, but sometimes we have a discussion as far as today's tiers category. But it was an homage. It was an homage to beer. We wanted to give an homage to you, and we'll ask you before we reveal the board, and we'll have the chats participate. Beer. You know how the tiers work. 1 is amazing. 5's bad, horrible. We're gonna throw some teams and some tiers. Today's tiers category, beer, and you tell me. Chat, tell me as well. What is foods to pair with beer? What are the best foods to pair with beer? You can give me the top, you can give me the bottom. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I mean, steak comes to mind first.
Oh, okay.
All right. We weren't too far off.
We don't dislike steak, right? We're fine with we're fine, Tim, with the steak. We didn't get there.
Steak is fantastic.
The chalk answer is probably pizza. Is my guess.
Oh, okay. Our board's a little different.
Okay.
It's probably, and this is a good time to say, there's more than 5 answers. There's more than 2 answers. There's a lot of answers. Yeah. So you got pizza, and steak. What would
I'd
be the worst
say-
food you could think of that you pair with beer?
I don't know if there is a bad pairing, Dean. I'm anxious to see the board because there's a lot of right answers. The chat's all over wings.
Wings, yeah.
Phenomenal. I mean,
We didn't
that's
say
an
wings,
easy
but sure.
pairing. That's probably chalk.
You know what? T. Ruxpin actually has the 5-hole answer. Shout out to T. Ruxpin. Did get the 5-hole answer correctly.
Ice cream.
Yeah, I mean, ice cream is spectacular, but like beer and ice
Not
cream, is this
legit,
something you mix together?
No, not at all.
We got to bring cheese in for this. Dave Potts, a big ice cream fan. But Josh says cake. Cake and beer.
Cake, yeah, cakes. I mean, a lot of desserts you think of that aren't going
Sweets.
to pair well. Yeah. Now, I will say there are dark beers, stouts and such that pair nicely with chocolate and things like that. But yeah, ice cream. Pasta's interesting too. Pasta's more of a wine pairing.
I had a Guinness float one time. It was delicious.
Yeah, see, as long as you got the dark beer, it can go with some dessert.
I didn't know they make Guinness floats. It's just like a root beer float, except you just throw Guinness in there. I guess that's how that works.
Yep.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, Tim, we kind of touched base on this yesterday, and I kind of completed it, but I'm not sure if you had thoughts. We sort of had burger, brats, nuts, similar.
Hold on, did you just call it a brat?
Is that incorrect? What do we say? I know you're more of an authority on this than I am. So what do we call it?
It is a bratwurst, Dean, and hence a brat.
It's a brat. Did you call it a brat for real?
I mean, it's on the screen.
Check the tape. You really didn't say brat.
I'm not saying I didn't. I'm not denying it.
Absolutely. Do you know what a bratwurst is, Dean?
It's from Germany. It's like a cousin of sausage. I've had it before.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what the distinct difference is, but yeah,
you'd know the difference. This
I've
is
had
not
it
a
before.
bad list. So I will say my only to not have wings on here, potentially pizza. Steak I get. That might be. But the list looks good. We can roll.
I went off the board on pasta because and Tim's the authority on pasta. Am I wrong to say pasta is not great to pair with a
again,
beer?
more so you're going to get more wine with Italian food. There are some good Italian beers that can pair. So it's not the best pairing. It's not the worst pairing. That's what I'd say.
All right, Tim, anything else we want to add here as far as the board?
I mean, I think it's a solid board. We didn't include wings, which we should have done. We kind of dropped the ball on wings. That would have made a lot of sense, but we were we were distracted.
Yeah, Tim, you didn't. I sent you the list, and you did not correct me. I guess you wanted to embarrass me in front of the people about the brat.
No,
brat. I'm sorry, brat.
No. I responded to you this morning.
Did you say brat is wrong or brat is wrong? I don't remember what you said. I can pull up the tape if you want me to pull up the tape.
Well, did you discuss it? Because if it's in words, brat, look the same. There's no correction until he hears you say brat instead of brat.
I've been outed. All right, we shall move on. We'll throw some teams in some tiers. I like the distribution. 6 games early, 4 games late. Let's dive in. The first one we're going to talk about is the Raiders. The Raiders of the Chiefs, 45.5 is the total. The Chiefs have one of the biggest totals on the board individually. The return of Rashee Rice, they're fully loaded. The obvious question is, how much do the Chiefs have to push? Will the Raiders push back? How much do the Chiefs have to actually go? Because can the Raiders keep this game close? Beer, you're going to go first because you're our guest. You're going to go first, and then Tim can tinker if he wants to. You'll figure this out. We'll make this work. It's not very difficult as far as the rules, and they're kind of flexible on the fly, and sometimes I'll adjust them to try to keep the scores close, depending. But where do you want to throw? Tier 1, of course. That's the best. That's where you want to be. As far as the teams you want, Tier 5, that is the nonsense. We love ice cream, just not necessarily with beer. Where do we want to put the Raiders and the Chiefs on the board?
Chiefs are definitely in the burger category. I mean, huge team total here. Mahomes is playing at such a great level right now. Over the last couple of years, what happened to Mahomes? We're worried about the upside, and we are seeing that. So I think they're a smash. The Raiders are definitely going to go in the ice cream tier. I think there's some plays mainly Michael Mayer, and outside of him, it's really, do you want to play any of these guys? Do you want to go with Geno Smith, a turnover machine on the road, a Genti in a tough matchup, these wide receivers? So there's just not a lot of appeal with the Raiders today. So now, do you want me to go into more on the Chiefs, or do we? What's your?
Let me ask you this. Rashee Rice, 38% current projection. Xavier Worthy, 5%. I think that's just kind of a fun way to be different. And I know we love the shiny new toy. We love it. We love the shiny new toy. But I think it's a really interesting pivot. That's one way to be very easily different and not necessarily bad. That's something I'm thinking about. And do you think that's good chalk for Rice? Because again, are you under the assumption that full go and they want to, right out the gate, here's our guy, don't mess with us, we're fully back?
I think it's okay chalk. I'm not going to say it's great. I'm not going to say it's horrible chalk. I don't think any of us know. I would think, best guesstimate is that he is, all systems go. He's had many weeks to get ready. So I love the Worthy call. There were a couple points I wanted to bring up with the Chiefs, and whether it's the 38% is nerve-wracking in tournaments. I will be well under that number. It's just, I get the excitement. I get the price. Cash game, he's a lock. Tournaments, I'll have some, but I will be well under that number. So you bring up Worthy. I think he's an interesting point here. Hasn't looked as great. Still dealing with some sort of injury. But pairing him with Mahomes gets you different. Or adding him. If you really want to play Mahomes and Rice, tack Worthy on there as well. I think that can be a way to get it a little bit different than everybody else. So couple different ways that you can go there. I'm also going to make the case here for Isaiah Pacheco. His role continues to grow. He's not going to have any ownership. They have a massive team total here today. I understand Kareem Hunt gets a lot of the work around the red zone and they get to the goal line. But I think Pacheco, very interesting. And this is not for cash games, but for tournaments. It gets you off of some of this Chiefs chalk with the highest total on the board. You can throw it with the Chiefs defense, which is one of my favorite defensive plays on this slate this week against Geno Smith, who's a turnover machine. So those are a few creative ways. Use Worthy instead of Rice. Use Worthy in addition to Rice. Pacheco, a great tournament play. Chiefs defense, a great tournament play.
Yeah, Kelsey also going to be lost in the shuffle amongst all the interesting tight ends this week, and certainly you can play him. And yeah, I think there's many different ways to play KC, and the clear and obvious run back, if you want to run back, I don't know if you need a run back, you can go full onslaught if you want. Seems like Mayer for the Raiders. Tim, do we agree or disagree? Do you want to adjust anything Beard did here?
No, I'm not going to adjust any of the tier rankings. I think Chiefs are clearly top tier, and the Raiders are bottom tier. We did get a comment in the YouTube chat, like, can I triple Mahomes with Rice, Worthy, and Kelsey to maybe get different with my Mahomes stacks? And like, I definitely get the idea behind that. I'm not sure if I really love Kelsey this week, but I think that's an interesting way of going about it, because there's going to be a lot of Mahomes singles with just Mahomes Rice. So if you want to get into some of the doubles or even some of the triples, I don't necessarily hate that. But it's definitely risky, but I don't mind it.
All right. TJ, I see TJ hanging out in chat. TJ loves himself. He's never seen a triple and not liked it. He loves himself some triple up. So I imagine he'll probably comment on that in chat. I mean, I am taking a peek by the live stream chat to see if we have any potential guesses, any winners on Superstar Sunday. Big Z says Joe Flacco, Superstar Sunday. I mean, I know we had a big game on Thursday, but Superstar Sunday, Joe Flacco, come on. 40-year-old. If it was 40-year-old quarterbacks, so every once in a while do something Sunday, Joe Flacco. That's a good guess. Superstar Sunday, not so much. All right. And the clue was champion. Somebody said Shohei Ohtani. I know he had 10 strikeouts and he had 3 homers. They don't automatically just give you the championship after that. They probably should. Oh, I'm sorry, Beer. Is it still too soon?
Too soon.
I just realized.
I did not expect them to beat the Dodgers. I mean, that team is just absolutely loaded. They're rounding in the form at the right time. I've been saying for weeks, and Dean, you may remember this, the Brewers seem to have peaked too early. They had some great runs during the season, and that performance, it's never happened in the history of baseball. Postseason, regular season, 3 home runs, 10 strikeouts. We're witnessing greatness. So I can't even be mad that he's just on another level. So it was an incredible game. Sucks for my Brewers, but Dodgers are going to be tough to beat.
And Casey pointing out what a dope I am. Yeah, Ohtani won a championship last year. I just totally forgot. Just happened last season. Yeah.
And our boy Don Yeezy, want to give him a shout out as always, brings up a good point. And I saw this last night too. The Dodgers now want to go after Kyle Tucker and bring him into the fold.
Why not?
So
why not?
Just unbelievable.
He's better than Enrique Hernandez or whatever. I don't know.
He is.
Okay, let's move on. Tim, you're up now. The next game is Philadelphia, Minnesota. I think it's one of the interesting potential pivots, and kind of the broad conversation that I'm having with myself on this slate is, okay, if I want to get away from Washington and Dallas, we have to find. You can't just say I'm fading this game, and that's the lineup you submit. You can't say that. You have to. You got to fill it out with other players. And I think Philadelphia, Minnesota is kind of interesting in a dome here. 43.5 is the total. At least some individual pieces that certainly historically can break slates. We've seen Jefferson do it. We've seen Barkley do it. A.J. Brown is at a historic low. His price on DK. I'm not sure if you've ever seen him as cheap as he is. What is he, 5'8" this week? Revenge for Carson Wentz. I'm not sure what kind of revenge he has in his heart, but he is taking on his former team here in Philly. Tim, Eagles, Vikings, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think this game is really, really good for large field GPPs. I think this game is, great as a pivot away from some of the chalkier stuff that we're going to see on the slate. You talked about AJ Brown at 5,800, Devonta Smith at 57. It's definitely. I think you could play Saquon in GPPs just because I think he's going to get kind of lost in the shuffle here. So at 7,700. I really don't mind it. He's going to be probably around 10% owned, which is nothing compared to some of these guys like Judkins, who's going to be around 30%. Jonathan Taylor's going to be 25%. So I think this game is really nice in terms of, pivots. We talked about Justin Jefferson. I don't even mind Jordan Addison, something like that. So this game, I think both these teams, just because I think ownership outside of probably Jefferson is going to be pretty muted. So I'm going to put them both actually in the Brat tier.
Not Brat.
Brat.
In Brat. Okay. Both Minnesota and Philadelphia in Brat. Beer, what say you? You're allowed to change this. Now you got to convince me. Here's the deal, Beer. You got to convince me. And if I'm convinced, you'll get some points. If not, Tim gets the points. How do you feel? And you can just move one team. If you want to move one team, by all means, go for it. Also, second clue is scrolling. Second clue for Superstar Sunday is Olympics. So now you can fire off another guest there in the Discord. Beer, Philadelphia, Minnesota, both in tier 2 in Brat. What say you?
I agree with Tim's points on this game is very intriguing. This is one of those games I think could be ugly. We could get a lower scoring game, also one that we could see really put some points on the board, and there's not a ton of ownership anywhere in this game. So I agree with you guys, both of you, that it's a very interesting game. My first inclination was to put both of these teams in the nuts category. I think they both have some upside. I think they both have some concerns as well, but there's a lot of plays on these teams, so I'm gonna leave them at Brat. I'm not gonna make the adjustment here because I do like some of the upside here. Philly, I really like the spot for Saquon Barkley. I think this team needs to figure out who they are, what they're doing, and he has yet to really have any games like we saw last season. So I think they really go out of their way. I know AJ Brown, he's yapping, he wants the ball, but I think they need to get Barkley going here. He's going to be low owned today, so I think he's a phenomenal GPP play. Other side, I really like Jefferson. He's had a great connection with Carson Wentz. The target should be there. Quinyon Mitchell is great. So is Justin Jefferson. So sometimes we put too much stock in those matchups. But I think Jordan Addison is a great play here as well, specifically that pairing, Barkley and one of the wide receivers. I'm not as ecstatic about A.J. Brown. I mean, he was 5,700 last week on DraftKings, and we got another dud. So we've had this value on him. He can be in your pool. Devonta Smith, those guys are always in the pool. Jalen Hurts is interesting. Should be low owned. Everyone's excited about, Daniels and Dak and Mahomes, and no one's really going to play him. But my key pieces out of this game are Barkley on the Philly side and Jefferson on the Minnesota side, which you can get that pairing in the lineups pretty easily with some of the other value out there. It'll make you different with a big-time ceiling on both of those players. So we'll leave them in Brat, even though my gut said put both in the nuts column.
It is interesting, like Hurts and also Fields, like two guys that have big range of outcomes are just not going to be owned today. 5%, I feel like they're kind of sort of like players are supposed to get over the field when the numbers are pretty low. And we're expecting 5% on each of those guys, and it's not hard to get over. I understand why. It's just they can be frustrating, but they also, can have 2 rushing touchdowns, which basically you're on your way if that kind of thing happens. I do think this is a pretty interesting game to get different. I am checking out the Discord, by the way. Any answers, any guesses for today's Superstar Sunday champion in Olympics? It is not George Foreman or Michael Phelps or Mark Spitz or Carmelo Anthony or Usain Bolt. Kurt Angle, not Kurt Angle or Simone Biles. A lot of guesses coming on through. Oh, well, feel free to play. You can play in the private chat. It is not Bruce Jenner. Okay. But feel free to keep firing away. Tim doesn't like to play along. He doesn't like to. We have a private chat, and Tim, he's only so much multitasking he can do, I suppose. But all right,
a couple more names we didn't touch on. I see the chat bringing them up. Dallas Goedert. I think he will be forgotten just because there's so many tight ends people want to play. So he's been solid here of late. So he's very interesting. And I forgot. I really like Jordan Mason. I liked it a lot better when Jalen Carter wasn't going to play, but this team has given up over 100 rushing yards every single game this season, even games that he has played. So a week off here for the Minnesota Vikings. Mason, the clear workhorse in that backfield. He's very interesting here as well. So there's a lot of pieces in this game that are intriguing that are going to be low owned.
You guys are very courteous to each other. With defensive struggle, I don't know what the thought process is. A lot of agreeing. No disagreement just yet, but maybe this will change some things. Beer, you're up. It's the Patriots at the Titans. 42.5 is the total. Pats are 7-point favorites here on the road. Another revenge game, a coach revenge game. Mike Vrabel probably shouldn't have been fired for Tennessee, especially when you consider the fallout, what's happening there this year. But probably not thrilled about it. Landed in a pretty good spot. Hey, he's got Drake May now for the next 10 years if he sticks around. But Patriots, Titans, beer. You're setting the table.
TJ just auto-filled Tennessee into the ice cream category.
Maybe
I like Tennessee, TJ. Maybe I'm going nuts on Cam Ward and A.O. Minor. And get out of here. They'd be below ice cream. This is a team I have zero interest in. I'll have zero exposure to. If Alec Minor beats me this week, then so be it. Or Chiga Okonkwo, or I'm just not doing it. So ice cream for them. I really like New England this week, so I'm going to put them not quite in burger. I'm going to put them in brat, TJ. We mentioned, the revenge narrative here. The running game is really what I like here for New England. I know it's, I'm a Travion Henderson truther. I keep waiting, give this guy an opportunity. It's clear they're going to ride Ramondre even through the fumbles. It's a great matchup for both of them against this Titans team, who hasn't really stopped anybody on the ground. So Ramondre, way to save some money, way to get different. There's a lot of benefits here to using him, and we have to keep Drake May in our player pool. I mean, this guy just continues to put up numbers here. Steph Diggs, I saw this morning, questionable. I don't know if we've gotten any clarity on that, but
they cleared it up last night. One of the
he's gonna play. Yeah.
So that's the tough part is trying to find a pairing. Last week I was very high on May, but had some Diggs. I did have some Booty, just not enough to go with it. Hunter Henry, can he pop off for a big game? So it's a team you'd almost have to stack a few different times and get different iterations of. But I think they do find success here, and I think it's mainly on the ground. So my favorite player, Ramondre. Patriots defense, the most expensive defense on FanDuel. Nobody's going to want to play that, so that's a low-owned pairing, and we know Tennessee's been very good to opposing defenses. So I think it's a great spot. I'll have some May. I'll have a pretty good amount of Ramondre. So brat they go, and 0 Titans for me. So if anyone has a case on why the Titans are a good play, get Ridley's out. I don't want any exposure here to this team.
I didn't mention Ridley being out, but that's how insignificant this offense is and how I feel about him. But yeah, Ridley is not playing football today. And I did before the show started. I actually made a Stevenson New England defense lineup on FanDuel, building some stuff before we went live. My only issue with May is, and I love May a la carte. I don't love Diggs. I don't love Booty. Henry, it's just I just there's so many good tight ends. I guess he can get the touch in the end zone twice.
He's
I was having a hard
play
time.
by himself. You could
Yeah.
play him naked.
Yeah.
How you could do a May and Ramondre pairing and just kind of gobble up the touchdown. So that's another way that you can go with his rushing upside.
Yeah. I'm and I am buying that Vrabel wants to shove it down the Titans' throat if he can. Like I don't like if he can score 40 points, I think he'll score 40 points.
Here's the play. Bet the New England team total.
I
and
bet
we
him
don't have to guess in DFS who it's going to be. We just expect them to score points.
I bet some alt lines New England earlier in the week, so I hope you're right. Tim, any issue with where Beer has placed the Patriots and Tennessee?
Yeah, I knew Beer and I would agree on Tennessee. That's a pretty easy one. I was kind of hoping that he would put the Patriots somewhere else, but he did not. That's exactly where I would put them as well. So I have really nothing else to add about New England. Yeah, they are. May is kind of tough to play, I think, in DFS this week, even naked, just because opportunity cost at the quarterback position is so massive. So, but it is a good matchup, and he does have rushing upside, so I do get it. You can take shots on who to pair him with. So yeah, I do love New England quite a bit here, and I think you can take shots on Stevenson as well. I really don't think. I mean, he's still outsnapping Henderson by quite a bit, so I still think Stevenson's the guy. So I think you can take shots on him in GPPs if you want to. So yeah, I'm fine with I'm good with New England in the broad tier.
And real quick on May, I mean, we would kind of need Tennessee to push a little bit to get that to Drake May ceiling game. You know, he could go out there and have a decent first half, and then, you know, they could pound the ball. So it's another concern. I like him. I haven't landed on much here, but again, Ramondre I think's a solid play.
All right, we're 3-0 now as far as you guys fully agreeing. Let's see if things shake up here at Carolina.
We'll find some. Dean's waiting for a brawl, man.
I'm trying to instigate. I'm trying to stir the drink.
We'll get it.
I'm a terrible influence. Yeah, Carolina and the Jets, 40.5 is the total here. Tim, you're going to be setting the table for us. You know, Hubbard back, but a lot of indications. The presumption is that Rico Dowdle basically dethroned him. You know, they say sometimes you can't lose your job through injury. Maybe you can. Maybe when you light up two bad defenses, but Dowdle's been best running back in football, at least statistically speaking, the last 2 weeks. I'm seeing a ton of Breece Hall hitting lineups, which is probably my least favorite chalk piece on the board. I'm curious what you guys think for tournaments. I know there's no Wilson, and that there's probably more stuff being projected his way because, you know, the Jets. Which wide receiver's core is worse, the Jets or Washington? I think the Jets. I'm pretty sure the Jets.
Yeah,
it's still the Jets. Yeah, it's the Jets.
I want to play some Commanders. I don't want to. And it might, you know, game environment certainly helps that answer. But yeah, who feels great about rolling out Josh Reynolds right now?
I mean, the thing is, if you can play Mason Taylor as a wide receiver, you would, but you can't, so you don't. Tim, Carolina, Jets, are we excited? Are we giddy?
Yeah, I agree with you, Dean, about Breece Hall. Like, I'm fine with Breece Hall in cash games, but I'm just worried about the Jets' ability to score touchdowns here. So that's why I'm worried about him for like a GPP ceiling. I really hate this game from a DFS perspective. If you look at, you know, the blitz game level factors, this game is projected for a really, really slow pace, a very few amount of plays combined. I think both these teams are bottom tier for me. I really don't have any interest here because, you know, now Carolina's backfield is going to be split. Like, however you think it's going to be split, it's not going to just be the Rico show. So that, you know, Carolina is completely out of the question, I think, even despite the fact that the Jets defense is so bad, but I just can't get there with this game script. So I think both of these teams are bottom tier for me.
They're both in the gutter hanging out with Pralines and Cream. Beer, we agree, disagree as far as both teams in the 5-hole in ice cream.
I agree on the Jets. I think Fields is an intriguing play. I'm going to have a smattering, we'll call it, a little bit, but not overly excited about it. The guy just somehow ends up getting there. You know, you watch the games and you're you're pulling your hair out, and I'm adding more grades to my beard watching him, and then you get 28 DraftKings points somehow. So I'll have a little bit, and that pairing with Mason Taylor is the reason why. I'm going to move Carolina up just a tier to Pasta. I think the backfield is certainly as good as Rico's been to us. We just don't know. And it may be, sorry, Chuba, he's the guy now. I don't see them doing that. I think you see this morning reports that they're trying to study, the best ways to use two backs. So at the prices he's gotten to, it's really tough to get there. To play Chuba, haven't gotten there. I think Ted is interesting, at least in this matchup. Finally finds the end zone. So I think there's at least a glimmer here with this Carolina team. I just don't see them as bad as the Titans, the Raiders. So going to give them a little respect and move them up here to the pasta category.
Every once in a while, Beer, I will yield to TJ and make him make the executive decision. TJ, who gets the point here? Do we like Carolina and pasta, or we like Carolina and ice cream? He's saying ice cream.
And I'm not going to stomp my feet and throw a fit. I get it. So
you got to butter up TJ. Yeah, he could be.
I actually would have done Jets pasta, so that's who would have got my point either way. But just because I think Fields is intriguing as well, just because nobody's going to go there at all.
Yeah,
and Mason Taylor is one of my favorite tight end plays on the slate.
It's not a hill I'm going to die on. We'll say that.
Me either.
So ice cream it is.
Typically, Beer, how many lineups do you make? Because I don't make a lot of lineups, and Tim doesn't make a lot of lineups, and that's why I like Fields for tournaments. I don't know if I'm going to have a Fields lineup, but I like the idea of a Fields lineup because nobody else is playing Fields, and we know on the right day. Now, on the wrong day, he's benched at halftime, or at least he should be benched at halftime and should never play quarterback ever again. But on the right day, and if he's not going to be on that's the kind of time you play him. Do you play enough lineups? How many lineups are you playing today?
Yeah, I'm generally around 50 in tournaments. So I think I have one so far, and I have about 40 of them built. So smattering is the word I chose to use. I may build one more, but I'm not going to have a ton. And I think you're building 3, 5, 10. It's really tough to land on him. Yeah, the upside's there, but who is he throwing to? And real quick on Breece Hall, he's the one early in the week was super high owned, and that number just keeps coming down. So this may go from one of them plays that he's too chalky, you can't play him, to maybe he's not highly owned enough. And we're seeing that in some of our tools here over on RG, that the ownership's coming down, and he's still popping as optimal in SimLabs. So that could be one. Just keep an eye on the ownership. Starts to go the wrong way. I don't love it either, even in cash games. Yes, he makes sense, but if the ownership's going to be that low, it is a decent matchup. Now, the Panthers have been better against the run of late, so not quite the cupcake matchup, but it is interesting with the ownership. And Mason Taylor, real quick, Panthers have been bad against tight ends this season. Last season gave up the most touchdowns to this position. I don't know if Justin Fields can throw a touchdown, but wanted to get that stat in there that it's 2 years running that they have not been good against tight ends.
Going to drop the third clue for Superstar Sunday. Get in that Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord, live stream chat channel. Tell me what Superstar I'm talking about. The first two clues, already scrolling, champion and Olympics. The third clue, maybe this gets you there. The third clue, one guess per clue drop. No, Beer's got 50 lineups. You cannot guess 50 times. Just one guess per clue. Fear is the third clue. Champion, Olympics, fear. Points are at a premium, Beer. 34.5. This line has dipped once again. Miami down and Cleveland. It's dropped, I think, 9 points throughout the week. 34.5 is the total. Browns favorites, possibly the first time this year, possibly the last time this year. This is what happens when the Dolphins are visiting you. You become favorites. Speaking of favorites, Quinshon Judkins, one of everyone's favorite running backs this week, despite the low total. Fannin, filling in for Njoku. Another tight end. What do you know? Another tight end looks interesting. I know Waller's been getting, more. Obviously, he's been good as far as getting to the end zone. He's been on the field more and running more routes. Achane is a spectacular running back that, not a lot of people are going to play. And I understand why. Waddle has been certainly has more upside in the absence of Hill. I'm more likely to play Cleveland defense than Miami pieces. But you want to make the argument for either of these offenses, the Dolphins and the Browns beer?
I really don't. Dean, I've entered another guest in the private chat here.
It is not Nancy Kerrigan, but I see what you're doing. I see.
Okay.
She fears Jeff Galooly. I don't know
Here's
why that name is still in my
Tanya
head.
Harding.
Wow, that was a good poll, Dean. I'd forgotten that. That was well done.
Why is that name still in my head? It can go away and like some good facts pop in. But go ahead, Beer. What do you got as far as these?
So this game, I want to start with both teams in the pasta tier. Not quite as bad as some of the bottom level teams. I think there's some plays on each side of this game that, I can't make the same case for the Raiders, the Panthers, the Titans. So Cleveland, Judkins, the ownership just continues to shoot through the roof. His rushing projection, I believe the highest of anybody this week, up at nearly 100. So we know running backs against Miami is obviously a play. We've seen week in, week out, guys crush this team on the ground. So his ownership in tournaments is certainly concerning. Not a big pass catcher here. Feels like he need multiple touchdowns to beat that ownership. But I think he's playable even in your cash games, especially on FanDuel. So I like him. Really like Harold Fannin this week. No David Njoku. Gabriel loves to kind of keep the ball close to the line of scrimmage, just not a big arm. So all that creative stuff they do with Harold Fannin, even if there is weather, I think still plays here. So those two I really like out of this game. Miami side, it's mainly Jalen Waddle for me. He stepped into this role without Tyreek Hill, getting a lot of targets, putting up numbers. Cleveland, a team you're going to find more success through the air than on the ground. So and Achane worries me. He can get there, and he's done it in tougher matchups, but it's going to have to be a lot of receiving yards for him to really pay off. Cleveland just very good against running backs. Not to say that he can't have a big game here. So Achane's not a guy I have a ton of yet, which kind of goes to your point, Dean. No one really wants to play him. So mainly the Cleveland guys for me, Judkins and Fannin, a little bit of Waddle, and trying to figure out a way to work Achane in. I just think there's better plays and better spots. So both teams in pasta for me.
Roth tweeted out the wind advisory in Cleveland's going to be dropped at noon. So the wind, he was talking about, and again, I'll drop the write-up. I just dropped the write-up in chat. If you want to see what Roth has to say, cheap and raw, just Kevin Roth. When it comes to the weather, he does officially have it at orange, but it also doesn't seem that like, I don't want to say daunting. It's not perfect, not ideal. But the team total is certainly reflective of, probably more so the offenses, the ineptitude there, than the weather, or maybe the combination of the two. Let's see, Tim. By the way, we have a winner. We have a winner in chat. We're going to play it out. We do have a winner in 3. So shout out to Alexander the Don, who repeat winner. I know Alexander's won this again. He's very good at this game. We have pasta tier 4 for both these teams. Tim, what say you?
I'm going to move Cleveland up one to the nuts tier just because I really like Fannin and I obviously really like Judkins. And this Miami defense is just so terrible. So I think we can get exposure to them, even if this weather is not ideal. So I think I am going to move Cleveland up one, just because of those pieces that I mentioned in the horrible Miami defense.
Do you like Judy at all, Tim? I know
I kind of do at 4,400. I mean, I think he can get you, 10 plus here. I mean, I don't hate it. I think, he's kind of an interesting pivot. Like if you're wanting to go to Chris Moore or something like that, one of these cheapies, like for Washington, I think he is an interesting pivot. So I don't hate him. I'm not going to get to him in 3 max or single entry, but if I was expanding to like a 20 max, I might put him in 1 or 2 lineups.
All right. Yeah, I like Judkins enough. I like the defense enough. And I'm going to agree with Tim. I'm going to agree with Tim with this one. I don't mean to disrespect our guest, but it's now 2-0.
I'm actually good with it. Again, I'm going to find a spot to fight with Tim on. This, we named a couple players there. You just threw in the defense. Who's a good play? I'm okay with this one.
The last of the 1 o'clock games, Tim, it's the Saints and the Bears. 44.5 is the total. My understanding is that Spencer Rattler lost his job to Caleb Williams in college. If you want to go revenge angle on that, I don't watch a ton of college. Watch some.
Story.
Yes, Olave projecting well once again. DJ Moore should be fine after his incident last. I don't know if you guys read about that. He was all twisted up apparently, which is not great, not ideal. Swift should be fine. I know he was questionable throughout the week. He should be good to go. Tim, you're setting the board. Bears, Saints. This one had a little bit of dicey weather. Yellow, orange officially. Again, check out Consult Ross Weather on Saints, Bears. Tim, what do you got?
I think both these teams have to go in the broad tier. This is a game that's gonna have tremendous pace. We like to stream against both of these defenses. There are plays on both the passing and running side of Chicago that I want to get exposure to. I think you can play Caleb singles, you can play Caleb doubles. I think you can just play DeAndre Swift. And then on the other side of the game, we got guys like, if quarterback wasn't such a strong position this week, I would actually kind of like Spencer Rattler at 4,800. I can't get there just because I think quarterback is so strong and you're going to need a lot of raw points out of that position. But I mean, this is a really good matchup. So, obviously we talked about Chris Olave. He's just too cheap. And the amount of targets he gets each and every week, I think is fantastic. Rashid Shaheed, I think is fine as like the home run play, the lower own play. So I think he's fine for GPPs. I probably wouldn't touch the New Orleans running attack here, but the passing attack I think is okay. And I really like this matchup, and I would urge people to get exposure to both sides of this game when you're building out your portfolio.
So you have both teams in Brat, is that correct?
In Brat, yep.
Okay, both teams in Brat. Beer, what say you? Any quibbles?
Yeah, I have a quibble. I'm fine with the Bears. I agree there. It feels like a team that's going to be very low owned across the board. I mean, Caleb's not as popular or exciting as some of these other quarterbacks. We have forgotten that Rome Odunze has been one of the best wide receivers in football. DeAndre Swift is not going to have many. Yep, TJ, go down. You can put them in the nuts category. That's where I'm going here. So the Bears, as a team, I have a lot of exposure to. Even tinkering with some Luther Burden and hoping he continue to grow. So that that's more of a Caleb stack him up an onslaught type of play, but he could be a nice pivot off of some of these cheaper wide receivers. While I agree with Tim on the Saints, it's kind of a frustrating team because I agree. We want to use a running back here, but you really can't with these two. With the tight end situation, Taysom coming in kind of takes some of the shine off of Rattler, and Rattler's a guy who played a lot early on in the season, so he's been good to me. But Taysom kind of puts a little damper on that. Olave in cash games, I think, is fine. Have we seen a ceiling yet? That could certainly come today. It's just I don't know that we're going to get a huge game out of him. So Rashid Shaheed's actually my favorite from the Saints in tournaments. Just gives you that big playability to keep this game moving. The pace is always going to be up with these Saints games. So I agree on the Bears. Swift, I don't know if I mentioned, but that's a low running back this week with big time upside that we just saw last week. Saints, I like. It's just tough to get too excited about many of the Saints here, even in a good matchup.
I'm going to bring in TJ on this. This is his team, so he'll be honest about the Saints. But I do want to ask you one quick question. Amongst the cheap quarterbacks, I said earlier in the show, there's at least 10 that I'm like, yeah, you could tell a story. And I think Rattler is one of those guys who's been better than expected. We have to give him credit. Like whatever the expectations were, at least my expectations, he has exceeded them. But there's other cheap quarterbacks, if you want to pull that cord, there is opportunity cost as well. But, Brissett is a professional quarterback. And he's got Harrison for a full game. And McBride, he looked really good last week. And maybe that was more like maybe Murray's just not great and hasn't improved in 4 years. Different conversation. So Brissett, Rattler, or Wentz. If you had to pick one of those cheap quarterbacks, who would be your favorite amongst those three?
It's Rattler for sure. He gives you sneaky rushing upside too. It's something we don't often talk about with him. That he's getting it done on the ground. He's a guy that's going to take chances, and those are the kind of guys we love in DFS. That he can make some big plays. He could. It's very much Justin Fields-ish. They can put up a massive game. It can be a major disappointment here, but you're out of the friendly confines of the dome. You're dealing with some weather outdoors. He would be my favorite amongst that group. Brissett would be second, by the way. I think that is a sneaky good spot, especially if Green Bay is going to put up some points. Brissett looked good last week. But to answer your question, it'd be Rattler out of those three.
TJ, jump in here. Or actually, he just made a ruling. It looks like he put the Saints in nuts. So
Saints and nuts, but just a reminder, Dean, that I did tell you this about Rattler at the beginning of the season.
Is that just you basically saying like
just
this
tooting my own horn a little bit? I
I
tried to tell you before the season started that Rattler's going to be a lot better than you think.
Yeah. You didn't even know what I thought, but yeah, you're right. You were correct. I probably besmirched them. But yeah, and I know
we have an appearance from Cheese is good, and he has an issue with your ice cream on the board.
Well, he doesn't know the category. Yeah, so we're not besmirching ice cream, to be clear, but the category is foods that pair best with beer, in honor of beer. Beer being here, filling in for Bobby. So the rare occasion where ice cream would hit the 5-hole. I don't know. Does anybody kick back on like Rocky Road and a Guinness? I mean, that's your thing. Have at it. Enjoy yourself. But I feel like that's not. There's a time and a place. So that's related. All right. The 4 o'clock games. 4 o'clock games. 4 games to go. Half hour until the next grouping comes in. Jordan, and we have Beimfohr also coming in, as well as Neil Orfield. 48.5 total. So a big boy total here. It's the Colts and the Chargers. Chargers are slight favorites, so it's high and it's tight. We have a bad Chargers line. We have a vulnerable Indy defensively, some injuries there. Pittman looks like he's going to be the guy excelling here for the Colts in the absence of Downs. Took me a second to get there. Jonathan Taylor, if you have the salary, by all means, pay up for Jonathan Taylor. I'm not sure if you can make it work, but if you can make it work, he seems like a spectacular play as well. We saw Vidal break through as what looks to be the clear number 1 going forward until Hampton comes back as far as the running backs when it comes for the Chargers. Last week we hot hand. Well, Vidal got hot. You tend to get hot when you're playing the Dolphins. Tim, I think this is you, correct? I believe you're up. Colts, Chargers, or am I wrong? Yeah. You're on the board, right?
I'm not sure, but I'll start. Yeah, this game is kind of tough in terms of stacking. I do like certain pieces. You can obviously play Jonathan Taylor. You can obviously play Tyler Warren at 5,200. So there's definitely pieces here. Vidal for the Chargers, I think, is fine, but I'm not really into the passing, the wide receiver here, the quarterback. I'm not really going to be getting to any of that in terms of 3 max stuff. I think I'm just going to ride the fence with this game and go. Well, I'm going to go Indy in the nuts tier, and I'm going to put the Chargers in the pasta tier, just because I think this is kind of a tough game to stack.
I agree. I don't know who to pair with Herbert. If it's McConkey, we saw him kind of break out last week. Sort of kind of got there on the last play of the game, essentially. Quentin Johnston. Keenan Allen, kind of the steady guy. I don't know if he's got the ceiling. He's got to get in the end zone, if nothing else. And then Gadsden is another tight end. So it's like 4 guys. Another one of the cheap guys. Gadsden pretty clearly now is the main tight end for the Chargers. Beer. It's a tricky one, and I'm not sure if I have to figure it out. Have you figured it out? Do you have a favorite Charger receiver? How do you feel about Tim's placement of these 2 teams?
Now, we'll finally get some fighting words here. I mean, we have a massive total here and 2 games or 2 teams that can easily put 30 on the board. I'm moving both of these teams up to the brat tier. So, yes, it can be tough to figure out, but Colts, Jonathan Taylor stands out. Low owned. He's expensive on FanDuel, makes it a little bit tough, but a good matchup here. Vidal was great on the other side. As far as the passing game goes, the Colts is pretty clear. I mean, Daniel Jones has been phenomenal. He'll go low. No Downs means more Pittman and more Warren. And you could even a sprinkling of Alec Pierce. And I'd love to throw Adonai Mitchell in here as well. We just don't know if he's back in good graces yet. So
is he even dressing? Are we sure he's dressing?
I'm not sure. That's what I'm saying. I'd love to add him. I'm not going to because I have no idea what they're doing with him. The Chargers is a little tougher for sure, but Quentin Johnston's one of my favorite GPP options on the slate. Doesn't look to have a ton of ownership. It's that murky situation. Ladd's finally coming off some good games. he's been their best receiver. He's been their big play receiver. So he's the guy I feel best about. McConkey would be 2, and Keenan Allen would be 3. The tight end situation, Gadsden's been great, but with Quentin Johnston coming back, do they need him as much? Does he see as many targets? That one I'm not really dabbling in much, but I just think these teams are going to score points. So to have them that low in our tiers, to me, you want some exposure to this game, even if it's just Jonathan Taylor, even if it's just, Vidal with a Warren run back, however it may be. This game to me has more upside than to be in the nuts and the pasta tier.
Yeah, shout out to Beer. I meant to mention Alec Pierce. He's one of my favorite value plays on the slate. He's only projecting for about 3% ownership right now. I think he's a great GPP play. And I think you could even play him in like smaller field stuff, like even 3 max stuff. So I really do like Alec Pierce a lot today.
And think about it, he gets there on big plays, and that's what we want. And, it's not going to be I'm going to rack up 8 receptions for 50 yards. He doesn't get there. He's going to get there on a 70-yarder on the big plays that we're looking for at low ownership.
That's right. He's not going to get there with volume.
No.
We're going to give both points to Beer. Beer made a good argument. So, Tim, you're down 3-2 now. And also, Beer's playing more lineups than I am. And that's the thing is I'm not making a ton of lineups. And so I don't really know. I don't have a stand like, well, this is a Quentin Johnston game or this is a Ladd McConkey game.
Yeah.
And I feel like the game's going to play out. But if you have more combinations, and I'm not making the argument, if you run 150, you can't lose.
No, but the point is valid. In my first 3 builds, did I land on this game much? No. Taylor, maybe. I'm very high on him here. But, yeah, the more let me get some exposure to this game, it certainly opens up possibilities.
And we've seen several times this year where the Colts just kind of pump the brakes. I want to say it was Rebar who pointed out on my show, the Pick Six show on Wednesday nights, was talking about the Packers and saying the Colts are like the Packers East, AFC. Because they get the lead and then they just chill, and we've seen that with Green Bay several times. And the Colts have gotten the lead and they just chill, and we've seen them kind of ice Taylor. They're not throwing the ball in the second half, but maybe they actually get pushed here. They're actually dogs here, and maybe we can get 4 quarters of the ball being thrown to Tyler Warren, which could be kind of interesting. Pittman also coming in, looking pretty good on FanDuel specifically, possibly a cash game play over there, just kind of the way that the builds work. Certainly playable in DK, but. Go ahead. What do you got?
Pittman, he was off to a huge start. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. And then, like you said, they kind of cruised and didn't have to do much. So there is upside there. Downs has kind of started to eat more and more into the roles here. And with him out, it's pretty clear who's going to get the ball. It's Warren, it's Pittman, and then some deep shots with Pierce to go along with Taylor. So there's just too many intriguing pieces on this team.
Beer, you drew the Giants and the Broncos. Giants, 16-point team total in Denver. Rookies in Denver against that defense. I don't want to speak for you, but like Dart seems fun. He seems like stop taking all those hits. And we want to see him stick around for 5+ years or so. Probably can say the same about Scatterboo. He's hitting himself. He's just welcoming. He's banging walls with his head for no particular reason. They're banging each other's heads. I don't know if you've seen So, Little Jordan Humphrey revenge game. Everybody's talking about all the revenge this week. That's the one everyone's sleeping on. Little Jordan, very angry at the Broncos. Also, speaking of narratives, they're retiring Demaryius Thomas, his number, at halftime. I know Sutton was heavily influenced by Demaryius Thomas. I did see a thing where I guess Demaryius Thomas's thing was bringing in donuts to the building on Saturday, and he kind of carried on that tradition. This is another one where how much will the Giants push Denver? I like Sutton a good bit. I think he's a really interesting pivot amongst the receivers. I don't know if the Giants are going to make them do much in the second half. We'll see, because I feel pretty good about the Denver defense. But Beer, you tell me. Giants, Broncos?
Giants, I'm going to put in the pasta tier. I think that, Jackson Dart has enough moxie, enough, big play. I think he's going to be aggressive. I think they're going to make some plays. I don't see them, going in and scoring 30 points or anything. Like, I don't have any Jackson Dart thus far, and I don't think I'll land on any. The Giants have mainly been, if I want to run back, which I don't think is necessary on Denver stacks, I just think that they'll do enough, be aggressive enough, take some chances that they're not going to end up a bottom tier and score 3 or 6 points today. I just don't see it. So there is at least a glimmer with the Giants. But again, mainly as if you want to add a piece to your Denver stacks, Dean, I love
who is it? Who's the run back on the Giants? If you're picking one,
I think Scatabo would be the guy for me. He's just so involved, both on the ground and in the passing game. I don't hate the little Jordan Humphrey call, and it's, you can't be mad at the coach that's giving you all your jobs with Sean Payton. So I don't know how vengeful he'll be, but I liked what I saw out of him. Like he basically was what I think we thought Darius Slayton would be after Neighbors went down. Like they were aggressive. They were getting him the ball down the field. He made some good plays. So if they're playing from behind, he's a guy that could rack up a bunch of work late in that game. So one of those two is basically, and again, I don't think it's necessary. I love the Denver passing game in tournaments this week. As bad as Bo Nix has been, this feels like a spot for them to get right against this defense who gives up a lot of big plays. You brought up the Demaryius Thomas narrative. Yep, they're going to go in the broad tier. I can't quite get them the burger, but Nix is my favorite GPP quarterback just to get different, and this feels like a spot they're going to go out and score 30 points. So pairing him with Sutton, pairing him with Troy Franklin, who continues to play a big role, just hasn't gotten there yet in the box score, and pairing him with a Marvin Mims, and not all three in the same lineup, but different iterations of big play guys against a bad defense. I think Bo Nix has a massive game today, and nobody's going to have him.
All right, Tim. Beer's got Denver, tier 2 in the brat category, as well as the Giants in pasta in 4. What say you?
Yeah, I'm going to bring both of these teams down a tier, actually. I just really don't have any interest in the Giants at all. Don't really have any faith against them, against this defense of Denver. So their Giants are a bottom tier team for me. Broncos, outside of Cortland Sutton, like I understand the Bo Nix take, but outside of Sutton, I just don't know who to pair him with. I don't really have any interest in that split backfield either. Don't have a lot of interest in this game just in general, but I do think that Denver's talent just outmatches the Giants here at home. So I think they belong in some kind of discussion in that middle tier. But I just think that the broad tier is too high for them. So I'm moving both these teams down.
I agree with Tim. That's kind of where I'm at. I feel like I can get not most of Knicks, but like enough of Knicks with just playing Sutton, I think. So again, we're having two different conversations. Beer's playing a bunch more lineups than I am. I don't know if I'm getting the Knicks and then the lineups I make, but I hear you. If you're playing a bunch, I understand why he would be in the mix. And the Giants, they're kind of a fun offense. They're getting more fun. I just don't think this is a spot. Although I was kind of joking about Little Jordan, but he's a really interesting pivot off of Chris Moore. Basically the same this is one of those deals where we talk about the game theory of if you're playing catch up and all you have left is Chris Moore and you have $100, and you're not first, you're trying to pass some people, just Humphrey can certainly absolutely outscore Moore. That's something you can do, like kind of a late swap thing, depending on how
TJ gets it. Vikings above Broncos is crazy.
Well, Justin, has he heard of Justin Jefferson? Does he know Justin Jefferson exists? That's the kind of guy that can drop a 40 spot.
Justin Jefferson's not a stack, but Bo Nix to two of his receivers is.
TJ, thank you, sir.
We're playing. Take it up with Tim. I didn't make the board.
TJ is wise beyond his years.
By the way, we did get a winner for our Superstar Sunday. We might as well just play it out and throw out the rest of the clues. Family was the fourth clue. Champion, Olympics, fear, and family. And we'll drop the next clue in like a couple minutes or so. But yeah, champion, Olympics, fear, family, and the last one we'll drop momentarily. Okay. Well, you don't have first say beer on your Packers. That's going to be Tim. You know what? I'm going to give it to you. We're just going to flip the order. Let's give you first say in the Packers.
Who scored on the last one? That's what I want to know.
Tim scored. He swept the board. He got 2 points. Yeah,
he took the challenge flag. Is TJ the review official here?
The rules are always changing. It's a fluid game. So.
Can I go not to New York, but can I go to Canada for an official replay on this?
Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Let's see if the replay.
It looks like he agrees with me.
The challenge on the play has been overturned, although it's not a complete 2-0 for beer. It's a Broncos in brat and the Giants in ice cream for a 1-1 split.
I'll happily take a split there, TJ. You're a good
but
man.
All I can do as the booth, as the review people behind the scenes, I can communicate this to Dean, but Dean may not communicate it to the audience, and so I he's the ref on the field, right? So like he just might ignore the review booth.
We could add Dean, we've given you too much authority here.
We could add a new rule, like one challenge flag. You could bring in TJ if you don't like my answer. We could do that going forward. I like that. One challenge flag per show, and then it automatically yields to TJ whatever TJ says. He's the guy. He gives the official ruling.
And
okay.
Denver would be my stand. They're the team I feel strongest about compared to how the field feels about them.
Packers, Arizona, 44.5 is the total. Packers 7-point favorites here. It's kind of murky because, they did lead the tarmac. We have confirmation. Green Bay, they have landed in Arizona. They were stuck there for a while yesterday. We don't know the deal with Jacobs. He's got he had an illness he was dealing with, and what was his body part? He also had a body part
calf.
too. Yeah, I don't like calves. He's got a calf. He's got an illness. Maybe he's over. We'll see. We're not going to know this, until later on in the slate. Almost definitely, there might be some reports out there, but I've seen nothing just yet. We're seeing game time decision. Jacoby Brissett was, competent, professional quarterback last week. Beer, talk about your Packers. Talk about the Cardinals. We're replacing these teams.
I am going to start with the Cardinals side. I'm going to put them in the nuts category. Brissett was actually an upgrade. Kyler Murray has just been so bad, and it's very, very, very clear who's going to get the ball in this offense. It's Marvin Harrison, who was off to a phenomenal game in his Indianapolis return where his father played until that concussion. He was off to a great start in that game. Green Bay has really struggled with tight ends. So Trey McBride, a phenomenal play here. And if we expect Green Bay to score, it's going to be a lot through the air for Arizona. Their backfield, really tough to get excited about either of Carter or Bam Knight, kind of splitting things here. So mainly the passing game here, but those three are very interesting. Green Bay, I'm going to put in the brat category. Many would probably put them in the burger, but we have the Josh Jacobs questions. We have the late arrival. Their plane didn't leave till like midnight last night. And your point of this is not a team that's going to go out there and step on your throat. So are they going to go score 50 points? If they're pushed and they have to, sure. But at 6.5, 7-point favorites in this game, I don't see them going out and scoring 40 points, where I think the Chiefs could absolutely do that, or a couple other teams we're going to talk about here. So the Jacobs point, I know a lot of people are going to, what about Emmanuel Wilson? You really need to plan this in advance if you're going to start your pivots here. Instead of take Jacobs out, Wilson in, and then you have so much salary left over. How are you going to use that properly? I would really work that out in advance rather than you get the news on Jacobs. Now you're adjusting things on the fly. Just walk it through in advance and see what it looks like. And Wilson would be obviously a great play. He would not get all the work. They would work in. Chris Brooks would get some work. We've seen them use Matthew Golden in the running game. So I don't know that it would be a smash spot compared to salary. Yes, he'd be a great play. I don't know that's a slam dunk with Emmanuel Wilson. So just wanted to get that in there. The passing game is interesting. Nobody ever wants to play it because it's kind of like the Chargers. So who do we stack with Jordan Love? It's the same question. So my favorite is Matthew Golden. The role continues to grow. The numbers continue to grow. He's the big play guy they haven't connected on yet. I think those big plays are coming. He, again, part of the running game now. A couple carries last week, went over 100 total yards. Tucker Kraft, another great tight end play that we have on the board here in a good matchup with Arizona. And Romeo Doubs, boring, but he's the guy in the field. He's the guy that's been putting up steady numbers. So I think all of them can be stacked in different variations with Jordan Love here this week.
My favorite pass catcher for Green Bay is Tucker Kraft, and unfortunately, we can't play him at wide receiver, and that's what I want to do. I want to play all the fringe tight ends at wide receiver. But that's not the way the build works. Tim, I want to spend some time in this Washington-Dallas game, so please be efficient. If you don't have a lot to say, by all means, we can just kind of scoot along. We have, of course, Green Bay ends up in the brat category. Where else is Green Bay going to land? And then Arizona right there in the middle with nuts. Any agreement or disagreement that you want to pitch? You are on mute, my friend.
Oh. Am I on?
You're good now. You're good now.
Oh, I'm good. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So TJ muted me. I didn't.
Oh, TJ!
Wow, TJ.
The power's getting to TJ.
TJ, unbelievable.
No,
I give him one challenge flag.
One of the dogs was snoring or growling in the background while Beer was talking, so I tried to turn that down, and then I forgot to put it back up.
TJ's still mad about Denver.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't have anything to add here. This is exactly where I put them. We had an interesting question in chat. Like, if I put out Pierce in the flex, do you go to Wilson if Jacobs is out? Yes, you do, but you're going to be getting onto a ton of ownership if you do that. So just keep that in mind. If you're behind the field, keep Pierce in there. Yep. If you're ahead, go Wilson. So just keep that in mind because everyone's going to be pivoting to Wilson there.
All right. And that different conversation. And I understand like being different with 4 receivers, but like, I don't know if I'm having 4 receivers in any lineups today. I understand, but like there's too many receivers. You got to use the flex spot for the receiver too. I understand what you're doing, but okay. Last game. Let's talk about it. All right. Clue five for today's Superstar Sunday. Let's give the people the 5th clue. It is weird. Champion, Olympics, fear, family, and weird. That is your 5 clues. Tim, you're up. Washington and Dallas. It is the biggest total on the board, high and tight. Dallas is a team total of 28. Washington, despite the fact they have no competent receivers, 26 and change, 54.5. Yeah, Tim, are we leaning in? We know this is chalk. Is this good chalk as far as this game? We play in the single entry streets. Those ownership numbers are going to be even higher in the single entry stuff, and I'm still kind of debating. And you could be different around it. You can absolutely be different around it, and there's little ways to be different in this game. I think getting away from Moore and getting onto like McCaffrey or Lane is probably the best way to be different in this game in tournaments. But you tell me, Washington, Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, these 2 teams are obviously in the burger tier. I mean, if you're playing single entry, 3-max stuff, this would be like an absolutely terrifying fade. And I'm usually fine with people fading chalk, but this is a tough, really, really tough game to completely fade. And I know that ownership is going to be really, really high here, but I don't really care. I'm going to be leaning into this game pretty heavily across my primary single entry team, across my cash game team. If I play 3-max, this game is going to be spread heavily across those 3 teams. So I think this is like a 55-point total here. I think it's about 7 points higher than the next closest implied total. So this game is absolutely the cream of the crop. And you're going to be playing into this game heavily. So both are clear burger tier.
All right. Both teams in the 1 hole, both teams in burger beer. Tell me if you agree or disagree. Maybe your favorite way to build stacks with this game. How we attack in Washington and Dallas.
Yeah, they both belong in burger. Obviously, this is a game that you've heard about all week. You're going to hear about all morning. It's just such a massive total. 2 defenses that have not been great. We know Dallas at home is going to score points here. They get Lamb back. You have all the value on the Washington side. So a few pieces I think are going to be lower owned than they should be. I'm not saying they're low owned. I'm saying maybe they're not as highly owned as I would have pegged them. First is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt coming off a down game, but coming off a lot of work with 18 touches. He's already given us a 30-point game, so a lot of upside there, and everyone's so excited about Jaden Daniels. Now you have all this value that you can throw in there with him, so I like him. Jalen Lane is probably my favorite Washington receiver. Moore is probably the safest for his role. We all saw McCaffrey score a touchdown, so he's going to be the one I think people are mostly excited about. And Lane, still kind of an unknown, but very much like an Alec Pierce, a big play waiting to happen. And what better defense to do that against than the Dallas Cowboys? So I like him. So you want to get different, leave more out of the stack. You can overstack it. I have lineups team with all 3 of these value receivers just to see what the lineup looks like. And that you can get almost anything you want to go with it. So people may not go that far. So that's one way to do it differently. Dallas side, Pickens ownership's coming up early in the week. I really loved him as a kind of a pivot here. He's expensive. He's priced as if CeeDee Lamb is not playing. I still think, I don't know that his ownership comes in as high as we're showing. So he's very interesting. And Ferguson is somebody that's forgotten about. Even in this game, people are going to want Ertz. Easy ways is to go to Ferguson. And yes, there's less balls to go around. These teams are going to score 55, 60 points. There's plenty of balls to go around to all these guys. So Ferguson in a loaded tight end tier will absolutely be forgotten about. And we've seen he's been a major part of this offense.
Yeah, he's been tight end one on the season, I believe. Like the season-long guys talking about Ferguson being tight end one, and the price has gone up. And I would imagine some of the balls that he's seen are now going to go back to Lamb. But certainly a way to be different on this slate. Okay, going to recap the board. Get your favorite plays, your favorite fades, and going to fire off a couple questions to you guys momentarily. But I do want to recap today's Superstar Sunday, recap today's board. Superstar Sunday, clue number one, champion. This person was a champion. They did win a champion in their particular sport. Olympics was kind of a curveball because the first ever Olympics was from this person's home country. It's known for that, not necessarily them being Olympian, although I think they probably played for their Olympic team as well. Fear, it's in honor of beer. Beer was here. You know, I'm going to do a superstar in some way related to beer. Fear the deer. Fear the deer is a very famous saying. The team's mantra. Family, well, this guy, you know, much like Vin Diesel in the Fast and the Furious, once you're family, you're a teammate. You get the same last name of me. I don't care what your jump shot looks like. You're in. You're the 13th guy on the team. Let's welcome Thanasis. Weird. Of course, we're talking about the Greek freak, champion, Olympics, Athens. He's Greek. Fear the deer.
Well
family.
Done, Dean. Well done.
It was a whole homage to you, Beer. We were happy to have you. Wanted to shout out to Beer, and of course your Bucks. So there you go. And that was Alexander the Don took down got it in 3, so getting a week 3 in RG Premium. If you're just joining us now, we tier ranked foods to pair with beer. Tier 1 is Kansas City, and these two teams here we just talked about, Dallas and Washington. Brought the most popular tier, that is Philadelphia, Minnesota, the Pats, Indy, Chicago, the Chargers, Denver, Green Bay. Smack in the middle, it's nuts. We have Cleveland, the Saints, and the Cardinals. Pasta. The Dolphins are all by themselves. They're just hanging out by themselves in tier 4, and we have 5 teams in the gutter hanging out with ice cream. It is the Titans, the Panthers, the Jets, the Giants, and the Raiders. Beer, give me your favorite stack of the game, stack of the day. And I wanted to ask, if you say you're only pinned down the one lineup, you're starting with Daniels or Dak?
I'm starting with Dak.
Okay.
If I only have one,
Yeah.
I want to get a little bit different. And he's you look at his home splits are phenomenal. And you can go back to 2023. It's 300 and multiple touchdowns. Feels like the floor.
We've seen Dak's projected ownership go up throughout the week. But both Dak and Pickens have both got steamed a little bit, I think.
Yeah, the Pickens thing is interesting because we feel like he's going to fall back to some degree. Like everybody's going to fall back to some degree with Lamb jumping back in there. And now his price is at an all-time high. And like the usage is, I don't want to say an all-time low, but it has to presumably dip. Do you have a stack, a sneaky stack, whatever you want to call it here, Bear, outside of Washington and Dallas that you're more heavily on than the field?
Denver. I love Bo Nix. I love attaching Cortland Sutton to that. And then I will have some variations, adding on Mims and adding on Franklin. So different ways to do that. But and even in a Mims Sutton skinny stack. But that's my pivot to anything you want to go to. That's the GPP ownership is very low. I love this Denver passing game this week.
We should be getting Jordan and Neil and Erik assembling here momentarily. Tim, same questions for you. Favorite stack, and you're kind of more in the 3-entry max, single entry streets. How are you handling it? What is your favorite stack available today?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not going to be playing the Dallas Washington game, which I am, but if I were to get different in one 3 max GPP build, it would probably be Chicago with some Saints. That game I have a lot of interest in.
Tim, how much are you planning for? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize, but just a quick question. How much are you planning for the possibility of Jacobs not playing? I know they called somebody up as well from the practice squad, so tea leaves suggest maybe he doesn't go. I would say if nothing else, a pretty obvious strategy today. If you have any tiebreakers, just yield to the 4 o'clock player. Take the 4 o'clock player and put him in your lineup. Kind of figure out there. That's kind of one of my general thought processes. But and Beer's even saying like, okay, Emmanuel Wilson will be the guy, the number one guy, but what's the split going to be with Brooks? Maybe they just pass the ball more. I know they don't pass the ball a lot unless they have to. But Wilson, are we saving a spot for him? Not necessarily.
No, I mean, I think you should, because I think Jacobs is a true game time decision, and there's a lot of good games in that 4 o'clock window. And that's why I'm not higher on this Bears Saints game, because they're in the 1 o'clock window. I don't want to take up a ton of spots early before we get that news. So, I think that is definitely something to pay attention to. I might need to build around. So like build in a 2v2 or 3v3 with that news being considered, or just like a 1v1, like Alec Pierce, something like that.
And what percentage of the field do we think even utilizes slate swap?
Not enough. Whatever it is, not enough.
Right.
Not enough. Right.
Yes, people may pile in on it, but even if I think this is even too high, 75-25. Don't do that. That's probably even too high. It's probably more like 80-20, 85-15. So yeah, you'll get some ownership, but most of the field has set their lineups. They're done. They're not adjusting to that, and it's not an easy swap. I got all this salary to move other things around, so that's why I said do some things in advance just to see what it looks like.
All right, boys, let's seamlessly transition. It's GPP Final Takes coming in right now. We got Neil, we have Jordan, and we have Erik Beimfohr. Excited, guys? Dallas, Washington, Beimfohr. Is this going to be a fun one? I'm waiting for it. I feel like Beimfohr, you're going to be firing off on some like lane takes. I got it, right? Is that what we're doing?
Is that Bill Belichick or is that Erik Beimfohr?
This is Bill Belichick ruined my boy. So look what they did to my boy.
They massacred my boy.
Yes, exactly. Poor Drake May and Sam Howell and Amari and Hampton. Look at their legacy now. But I love these slates, man. I love these slates. You guys also nailed it. I think there's so many fun like levers you can pull. Like you can get gross with right. Like we're going to be talking far too much about Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane for my even
Robbie
my own
Chosen?
taste. Yeah, there's a lot, right? Chris Moore, right? Like I didn't know he was in the NFL a couple months ago. And then, like you guys said, like late swap stuff, right? Monitoring injury news. It's like this hybrid between an NBA slate and or an MLB slate waiting for the lineups, right? Is the min price guy going to be in the lineup or is he not? I love these slates, so I'm excited.
NBA, get ready. Tuesday night. I think it's just a 2-gamer, but like Friday, right out the gate, it's like 13 games or something goofy. Could we get a little bit more? I'll get off my soapbox. We got to get out of here. But do appreciate you guys. Beer. I appreciate you jumping on here. Filling in for Bobby, for Tim. I was Dean. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. You still have 2 hours of nonstop NFL DFS conversation taking you all the way up to kickoff. Actives, inactives, 1 o'clock games coming in 25 minutes. Beimfohr, it's all yours.
Shout out to, of course, the People's Show. And welcome to GPP Final Takes. I'm, of course, your host, Erik Beimfohr, joined by Jordan Vanek and Neil Orfield, 2 of my favorite people to talk to and 2 of the best, of course, in the biz. If you've not joined us before for this show, we're not necessarily going to go game by game or position by position. What we're going to try to do, and guys, today we got a lot of different ones to cover here, but kind of the final most important elements to discuss for your tournament lineups. If you have questions, please bring them into the chat. I will monitor it the entire show. We'll hit as many of them as we can. That's what we're here to do, right? Answer what you guys are looking to have answered. And there's a lot to answer, Neil, today. There's a lot of injuries. There's weather. There's only a couple of like super appealing games. There's really like slate changing potential injury, right? News in the afternoon. Those guys were talking about Josh Jacobs. There's a lot, man. Like there is a lot going on this slate for a small slate with like kind of a bunch of like 40 totals. It felt gross on Wednesday. And now it's like, oh my gosh, man, there's like a million different ways that this thing could go with all the injuries. So what are you kind of thinking like first glance at this one?
Yeah, I mean, Josh Jacobs' injury, pretty impactful because we could get some really nice running back value there if he ends up being out. And then if he's in, he's obviously playable as well. So as far as injuries go, that's really the big one, right? Like, I don't think am I missing any that we haven't gotten the news on? I think that's the biggest one.
Unless you call Jacoby Myers big or something.
Oh,
no.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't.
I will read the injury report. Most of them we have gotten, but right, those are still like, it's like Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel are both out, right? And their team is playing the Cowboys. It's like there's a lot to dive into. Jordan, what are you thinking about this slate just from a super quick, high level? How are you processing it? Like, you open it up, right? Like, where do you even start?
I mean, the quarterback ownership is so high this week for 3 guys in particular. And while I do see those 3 guys, we and you talked on Thursday about one guy in particular that like I'm enamored with on this slate, because it's such an ugly slate, and to see ownership so condensed at the quarterback position makes me extremely happy to get different and then take pieces from those quarterbacks, because it's like these guys can not be the GPP winning quarterback, wow, their guys actually get there for DFS purposes. So I think this is a very ownership-driven slate compared to the last few weeks. I do think that Green Bay situation is interesting, but even if Josh Jacobs gets ruled out, Chris Brooks, Emmanuel Wilson, Pierre Strong, like, I don't know who the backup is. Like, I watched Chris Brooks against that Dolphins team on Thanksgiving a few years back. I feel like just bulldoze people. Like, could it be him this week? I mean, if he gets ruled out, I'm gladly staying away from that situation entirely.
Interesting. I'm a little higher on. We'll get to it. I'm a little higher on the situation, but I also think it's also possible that like maybe we change our identity a little bit, right? With the Packers, does it make a Jordan Love, Tucker Kraft, Romeo Doubs, Matthew Gold? Like, are they more interesting, right? We've seen the Packers secondary get destroyed this year multiple times already. Nate Hobbs is back on the injury report for them at corner. Marvin Harrison is fine. Jacoby Brissett is apparently rejuvenating the Cardinals offense. Like, there's just a lot in flux. And then how you move some things around, right? How the early games go. Who did you play from the early games, right? Then do we get the Jacobs? There's just a lot of different things that we have to consider, I think, on this slate. I want to quickly run down 2 of those key elements. One, I'm going to list, here's the injury report, okay? So we're going to get the actives and inactives for the noon games here, 1 o'clock games, whatever, in about 20 minutes. But here's where we stand so far. And I'm going to list a few like defensive guys and stuff in here too. It's a long list, so bear with me. Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, out. We talked about Josh Jacobs, questionable, true game time decision. For what it's worth, Josh Jacobs himself said he thinks he can play, but like, what player doesn't, right? Have you ever heard a player come out and say, nah, yeah, I don't think so, right? They're football players. It's a calf issue, which is what Shuba was dealing with, and like, Christian McCaffrey has dealt with. The calf thing, it's a calf epidemic across sports, like with Achilles and everything. I would be a little bit, I'm getting out ahead of myself, but I would be a little bit shocked if they like just load him up like normal Josh Jacobs, even if he plays, given what's going on with all these calf and Achilles injuries. But anyway, he's also sick. He's under the weather, which is kind of funny. But Hassan Haskins, questionable, interesting, with obviously Amari Hampton and Najee Harris both out. Quentin Johnston is back. Zach Ertz is in. He was questionable, but he is going to play. Joe Alt for the Los Angeles Chargers, offensive tackle. If you've been watching them, the offensive tackle turnstiles for the Chargers have not been very good, very kind to their offense. So Joe Alt coming back would be a big deal. Trevon Diggs for the Dallas Cowboys, corner, is out. They also have a safety, questionable. They're bad already, and now and they have starters out. Kyler Murray, as we mentioned, is out. JJ McCarthy is the emergency quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. Garrett Wilson is out for the New York Jets. Stephon Diggs is in. Jacoby Myers is questionable. DeAndre Swift is expected to play. Calvin Ridley is out. Josh Downs is out. Brock Bowers is out. Amari DiMercado is out. Darius Slayton is out. And I thought this one was notable we'll talk about the Eagles game. Jalen Carter is questionable. And we've seen some big differences with Jalen Carter in and out of the lineup for the Eagles. All right. That is the injury report. So that's why it's important. That's a lot of stuff, right? Then there's 2 weather games that I think we should at least quickly touch on. Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist here at RotoGrinders, did a really nice update where he got really detailed. You can see it on your screen now. I'm not overly worried about New Orleans and Chicago. I'm actually going to start there because it's yellow, orange, and not just orange or red or anything like that. The the rain is clearing in Chicago. I'm in St. Louis. I know it's not the same thing, but it's nice and sunny here now, like 55 and sunny. But there is some wind in Chicago, shocker. And there's going to be like some sustained wind with like a little bit of gusts. Not a huge deal. It has been monsooning for 24 hours, and it is Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler. So, take that for whatever it's worth. The one that's a little bit more concerning, as you see, orange, is Miami and Cleveland. I'm not going to read it all to you, but it's not like earlier this week. It was like, oh my God, are they going to have 60-mile-an-hour winds in this game? It's not that, but it is quite windy, and it is going to rain in Cleveland, and it has been raining, and it probably is right now in Cleveland. So again, take all of that with a grain of salt, but it's important to understand, like, right, when we talk about Quinshon Judkins, when we talk about Harold Fannin, when we talk about Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze and Chris Olave and all that, this is a part of that, these weather situations. So to wrap the weather, Neil, is there anything that stood out, like, specifically to you that you're adjusting for with these two?
Not a ton. I mean, I do think that the bigger concern here is the wind. Like, I don't really care that much about the rain. If you get winds, over 15 miles per hour sustained, that is a concern. So it is a slight dock to the passing games, at least for Miami and Cleveland, because, at least at the beginning of the game, we're expecting sustained winds over 15 miles per hour with, gusts that are a lot higher. So that is a downgrade, I would say, for that game. But it also makes the running games look a little bit better. And honestly, maybe like Fannin, like guys who get the ball, Devin Achane, guys who get short passes might actually benefit a little bit because they're just not trying to throw the ball down the field as much. But it's so difficult to factor in weather when it's like, this is what we're expecting it to be at the beginning of the game and at the end of the game, and how it's like, I don't know. Nobody really knows. Like Roth is as good as it gets, but like nobody can actually predict the weather with precision. So it's very tough to gauge how much it is going to be a factor. So ultimately, I'm factoring it into the extent that it is a downgrade to me for like Jalen Waddle, who also can, get short passes as well, but slight downgrade to Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Isaiah Bond. But for like Isaiah Bond and Jerry Jeudy, it goes from like, this might be a smash spot for them against the Dolphins to like, okay, it's not a smash spot, but still players I'm probably going to be above weight on the field anyway. So honestly, doesn't change things all that much for me.
I like it. Jordan, Neil mentioned like the unpredictability of weather. I know you're a big college football guy. It reminds me of yesterday where there was literally no concern. Like maybe, I believe Roth put maybe a potential little light shower in TCU and Baylor. And then it monsooned and they had to delay the game like 3 different times, and the field was a mess. And the game was sort of impacted by the weather there in that one. And then Notre Dame and USC was like, are they going to be able to play? Because it's like bad, right? And then they started on time and they played the whole game and it was fine, right? And there was like 80 points scored in the game. It's one of those, how do you think about that part of it? That like, okay, we know that these are bad. How do you think about it from a DFS perspective?
So one thing I always find interesting in the Texas A&M Arkansas game is the one I'll use from yesterday. They were talking about like thunderstorms. And when you have thunderstorms, you have delays. And delays push it back, and if there's a great chance they just play clean. And for me, like I had Marcel Reed lineups. Mario Craver ruined everything for me, but Marcel Reed was absolutely fantastic in that game, and the game was just clear the whole time. It was fantastic. So today's games don't really have that. They don't have the word thunderstorm from what I've seen of. I like seeing that word when it comes to these things. So it's like Miami Cleveland is just going to be awful to me. Like I don't. One, even if these offenses, if the weather was clear, like I would be very happy to play Cleveland. I'm most likely playing Quinshon anyways. And now it's like, hey, the weather's really, really bad. And it's like, oh, cool. I'm just going to continue to play Quinshon Judkins against this Miami defense. Kamani Vidal just ran for $120, $140 against them. Any running back that has any sort of pulse is going to be able to run against them. And the other side, like, I don't know if Miami can block this team. This is like Tua may get rid of the Bill ball quickly, but this team is just going to have a lot of blocking. And then the New Orleans-Chicago game is the one I'm most afraid of because, like, I'm not building enough lineups to get here. I would like to get here because I do like the spot for both teams. I wish this was played in New Orleans because I would be loading up on Chicago because watching New Orleans secondary last week, Ben Johnson's like, oh, cool, we could throw the ball downfield. But now he's got a time when he wants to throw the ball downfield because of those sustained winds. It could get a little ugly there, but if it's clear, like Caleb Williams doubles would be absolutely beautiful on this type of slate.
I agree. I have some concerns about the Brown stuff, not because I don't like Judkins. And I mean, come on. It's the Dolphins. Judkins' price looks great. He looks great. Harold, I mean, there is no bigger Harold fan and Slappy probably on planet Earth. Me and his family, right? I love him. The problem is, like, with the weather, and like you said, this is still a Browns-Dolphins game, and it's hard for me to envision, like, it's going to be a lot of running. It's going to be, not a bunch of downfield passing. So, like, yeah, you're going to get carries from Quinshon Judkins. Yeah, you're going to get those checkdowns from Harold Fannin. But, like, we'll talk about a lot of the afternoon games. There's a lot of good options that have sort of opened up, right? I'm also going to get a lot of short stuff from Zach Ertz, right? Yep. It's like he's not as good as Harold Fannin. I know that sounds weird, but, like, Harold Fannin can do more stuff, like with the ball in his hand and stuff. But, like, I'm going to get, right? And, like, I haven't found salary to be that difficult. Specifically with some of the injury issues and everything that we've had, it's like Judkins better get 100 yards and a touchdown. Fannin better get in the end zone, even if he catches 6 or 7 balls. Like 6 for 50 is not really making it move. You know what I mean? So I just have concerns about the game. It's not that those guys like won't be good. It's like, are they going to win me a tournament in a game where it's like 17-10 or whatever, Neil? You know what I mean?
Yeah, agreed. But I also like it really depends on how much the weather impacts it. I think the Miami's defense to me is just we talk about the Coors Field effect, and it's like the Bengals are that way. Obviously, we've got a few teams that are the Cowboys defense, but I think Miami is right there as far as being just like
totally.
Yeah, it's a Coors Field effect. So the Browns, everybody's playing Judkins. So like one part of the Browns is like getting really popular, but beyond Judkins, nobody's playing. I guess Fannin to some extent, but even Fannin's actually not getting that much steam. Like I don't see him project for that much ownership anywhere. So because it's like, all right, you put, I can't, who's a bad baseball team right now? Are the Nationals bad these days? I can't even think of who.
The Nationals are, but the Rockies.
But the Rockies are so bad that you can't even play the Rockies.
The Nationals.
Like when the
Nationals
sort
is
of bad
fair.
team. When
it's a pretty good comp. It's a pretty good comp. The Nationals have a couple of good, right? Like CJ Abrams and James Wood are really good. It's just the rest of the team is absolutely horrible. That's kind of the Browns.
Their bullpen is terrible.
Yeah, it's kind of the Browns.
So you get the Nationals in Coors Field, and nobody wants to play them because they're the Nationals. But like they can put up 11 runs in Coors Field. So the Browns are, to me, it's like they're not good. I'm not like super excited to play the Browns, but they are in just this elite spot where if they're ever going to put up some fantasy points, it's here. Isaiah Bond has seen his route participation increase to like 84%. Jerry Jeudy was targeted double-digit times in the last game with Dylan Gabriel. So it's like, they don't have a great quarterback, but they have an elite matchup here. So if the weather were not a concern, I would absolutely love this spot for the Browns. Leverage on Judkins if you want to play the pass catchers on the Browns. Definitely love some Harold Fannin. So it's not like a spot that I'm really into, but I'm really into Judkins as everybody is. I'm pretty into Harold Fannin. I think one of my top 2 tight end targets on this slate, 2 or 3. And then I do think like Jeudy and Isaiah Bond, because Isaiah Bond is also 3,400 on DraftKings, just because of the matchup. I think that they are both players I'd like to be overweight on the like 2% projected ownership they're getting.
That makes a ton of sense, Jordan, just to wrap the Brown, because they are a pretty big deal, actually. And this game is a pretty big deal. I think where my brain is at with the Judkins thing is just like an ownership thing. It's like, right, like Harold Fannin, like, Fannin, Bond, Jeudy, whatever. No one is playing them. They're concerned about this stuff for those guys. But with Judkins, everybody's just like, well, it's going to rain. And so they're going to, right, he's going to get 25 touches or whatever. And it's like, maybe. Right, maybe, but is he really? There's just an absolute slam dunk. I think he's one of the best plays of the slate. Does he deserve to be the highest owned player? That I'm going really back and forth, and part of that, right, is we have like this Josh Jacobs stuff. We have those games in the afternoon that are really good. We're going to talk about, right, Jonathan Taylor and Saquon and all these different other guys that I do like a lot. That's I go back and forth quite a bit because this game is still pretty gross, and a really, really gross game with the Cleveland Browns player as the stone cold chalk makes me feel a little nauseous.
See, that's where it's like the last week is kind of where I'll counter in the sense of we know how bad the Chargers O-line is. And we know Kamani Vidal is not very good. And they gashed them in the run. I can't unsee like Quinshon having 100 and a touchdown. And the thing is, I think you could play Quinshon with Judkins. I think both of them are going to get red zone rushing because we've seen that 2 or 3 times this year. Like all of a sudden, Judkins Harold Fannon's lining up at fullback and just getting a halfback dot. Like I believe that both of them are going to actually have the red zone rushing in this game, or just quick passes like this. I mean, if you watch Harold Fannon's tape at Bowling Green, you could use him in any way you want. At the Senior Bowl, I got to see him in person. It's so weird how he gets open. I don't understand it because he's not shifty. His hips do not move, but he figures it out, and he could be the short yardage yak guy. And I don't mind playing both, but again, the Dolphins-Browns game only has got a 35-point total. I'm not getting further than those two on this slate.
Makes a ton of sense. Let's pivot over to who on DraftKings specifically is the highest projected owned player of the slate, and that is, I didn't even get to him because it was sort of an injury, but mostly a suspension, right? Rashee Rice is back in our lives, only 5,600. DraftKings just closed their eyes, picked a number somewhere in the middle, right? They spun the globe and said, whatever, 5,600 sounds fine for Rashee Rice. And so, because he's quite cheap, because they're playing the Las Vegas Raiders, because Rashee Rice is very good, because the Chiefs have the highest pass rate over expected in the entire league, Rashee Rice is going to be pretty popular. Neil, so what do we do with Rashee in this spot? 37% projected ownership is like, that's a really big number, especially for a wide receiver. I know you play like a lot of the larger field stuff. How are you thinking about him? Because I do think it's a little bit different, like in a 300 to 500 person contest versus like the Millie Maker.
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of people, including some very short people, who are just like, yeah, you just lock button Rashee Rice. Like he's just so obviously 5,600, clearly mispriced. Like, what is the floor here? I'm not taking that approach of lock buttoning him, but I still might be above weight on 37%. Like I think I doubt I get to 50% Rashee Rice because there are so many other players that I love on the slate. But like hand building lineups, I've probably hand built like 4 or 5 so far. I don't think I've made one without Rashee Rice yet. So I kind of get the idea of like, yeah, he just looks too easy. I think for large field tournaments, I'm not lock buttoning him, but I do think that it's defensible. Like I think that's totally fine. It is like if you think that he is a $7,500 player who's just nearly $2,000 too cheap, I think it's totally reasonable if you want to lock button him. I guess I have enough concerns here where it's like, yeah, they might not run up the score on the Raiders though. Like they might just be able to do whatever they want. Maybe they start running the ball more. I know that they have been high in terms of pass rate over expectation, but in a game that they have, there's a pretty big spread here. They're really huge favorites. Like I'm not sure if they're actually going to continue throwing the ball that much in the second half. So and like if his floor is 16, like you might not actually want 16 at 5,600. There is opportunity cost there with other players. So I think he's a great play. I'm going to have him in a lot of my lineups. I'm probably not going to be too far off from the field at 37.5%. I'm not taking it to the lock button side of things, but I honestly, I don't mind. Like if people want to do that, I have no real issue with it.
Jordan, what do you think about Rashee?
Sorry, I was replying to a comment about Bama being if Bama's the best team.
Yeah, what are we doing? Does Ohio State not exist?
Ohio State's the best team until proven otherwise. They're going to lose to Michigan. They're totally losing to Michigan, but they're going to be the best team regardless of when they lose to Michigan, just because their mental fortitude is just not there. Michigan's going to be like, you guys can't run the ball, and they're going to be like, we're going to show you. We're going to run it 40 times instead of just giving it to Jeremiah Smith. But anyways, getting to Rashee Rice, he's coming off a significant injury. He did play in preseason, which is strange, but it was like red zone back shoulder. Is that really, a way that it's, getting there and necessarily like showcasing that he's fully back? Not so sure. But for me, I don't hate Rashee Rice talk. I think that this slate in particular, it's like, do the Chiefs really care to go ahead and be like, let's get this guy the ball 12 times, 10 times. Let's target him 12 times like they were doing all last season. It's the Raiders. They also have showcased they can throw the ball downfield this year. They did not. They were incapable of doing it last season. If Rashee Rice comes back and the Raiders decide we're going to make sure that doesn't happen, well, Xavier Worthy over the top is like the best leverage play of the entire slate. The dude, like if you're playing Mahomes, I want Xavier Worthy with Rice. Like I want that piece because it's like, yeah, Rashee Rice can give you 7 for 70. Is that winning you a GPP? No, it's not probably losing you a GPP, but it's definitely not winning you a GPP. And then you have Worthy, the one that's like 10 or not 10, but 5 catches, 120 and 2 touchdowns. It's chalk that I understand it, both sides. I personally, my first hand-built lineup did not feature Rashee Rice, but that's because I am stacking Bo Nix. So I have a perfect leverage play at the same price or 300 more. And it's just, it's fine either way. I think I lean not playing him, but he's going to be good.
We'll get to that one. I realized this morning when we get to the flag plant section, I'm either going to have to call on myself first so I can take it, or I'm going to have to come up with another one because you and I are definitely on the exact same thing. So we'll figure we will figure that out. It is funny. UCF we got college football chat going around. It's football season. We're excited. It felt like football season this morning. I got up and walked the dogs. It's 50 degrees and it's beautiful. Nice little brisk walk this morning. But yes, I would not call West Virginia competent. That is the Washington terrible. Nationals. Yeah, they're really, really bad. They're about like the Jaguars, by the way, if you're watching this London game. Good Lord. This is the worst 4-2 football team I've ever seen in my entire life. With the Chiefs, anything else, Neil, that we missed? Are you on this Worthy thing? And then what about Mahomes? Like, where does Mahomes fit? He's obviously a very good play, but we do have, Daniels and Dak and then some other, deeper tournament options.
Yeah, Mahomes, I mean, he's kind of chalky. So I'll have some Mahomes. I'm not going to like X him out of my player pool, but I'm not like, he's not the one that I'm going to bat for because he's projected for the second most ownership on the slate. Everybody wants to go there. They're all going to be stacking him up with Rashee. I agree with Jordan that if you want to go with Mahomes, you should do it with Xavier Worthy. Just get different on the Mahomes stacks. So I suspect I'll be underweight on Mahomes, not by like any huge amount. Maybe I'll have 8 to 10%. Just not taking a major stand there, not letting him make or break my slate. I sort of have interest in Isaiah Pacheco, and nobody's been with me on this take so far, which I think is fair. But if the Chiefs just decide to play it differently, then everybody's thinking like Mahomes is going to go out there, he's going to throw it to Rashee Rice 15 times. They're going to be throwing it all game. They're not going to run. That's one way it could go. But I think there is also the scenario of the Chiefs are up 17-0 at halftime, and then they just run it the whole second half because why not? They've been trying to get Isaiah Pacheco going. Andy Reid keeps on talking about like, yeah, we really want to get him in a rhythm. We want to get Isaiah Pacheco going. They've been doing it. I mean, this seems like as good of a spot to do it as anywhere. A game that they are significantly favored here. Isaiah Pacheco looking a little bit better recently, getting more of the workload. Now he's 5,000 and nobody's playing him. So I think that he is a fine pay down option that is like unsexy, but like the matchup is right. The workload is increasing. It's not really fun because it is still like sort of a 3-headed monster there. I get it. Kareem Hunt is there. But I think that it could pay off. It could pay off with like 100 yards, a touchdown, 3 receptions for 14 yards. And it's like, hey, I'm pretty happy that I have Isaiah Pacheco in my lineup. So not a huge stand I'm taking, but a player that I'm getting to that not many are on the Chiefs. I'll probably have, 5% Isaiah Pacheco, which is well over the field. Like the Worthy call, I'm not getting to Kelsey because there are a lot of tight ends I love on this slate. I think that's it for me on the Chiefs. And then what was your other question? I thought you had
I don't remember.
It was the top 3. It was the Jaden Daniels.
Oh yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that one because we can kind of wrap that all in the Cowboys Commanders game. We'll do that one next because it's obviously very important. So I see your questions, guys. Keep the questions coming. Let's hit some of these questions. It'll segue into because there's multiple about the Cowboys and the Commanders. Someone did ask. I don't have this. I don't do the projections. But asked like if Josh Jacobs is out, like what would how would Emmanuel Wilson project essentially? I definitely understand Jordan's concern. I can't sit here and say I know exactly how it's going to split amongst the guys there. I do think Emmanuel Wilson would be the lead. It was funny because Emmanuel Wilson got banged up in the summer. Chris Brooks was operating as the backup like in the preseason, and that's entirely flipped. Emmanuel Wilson has taken over that backup role. I kind of think Emmanuel Wilson's like, he's not like some superstar or whatever, but he's like he reminds me of Josh Jacobs. It's like how like Tyler the Ravens brought in Tyler Huntley and stuff to back up Lamar. It's like that's what the Packers. They're like, let's get the shitty version, pardon my French, of Josh Jacobs, which is like that's not very good. But like let's get this guy who's like he does a little bit of fun stuff, right? But it's like he's very built in that mold. I think he would project pretty well, but Chris Brooks will play. for sure. And how much I can't say for sure, but I do like Emmanuel Wilson.
I guess
regard.
like 11 to 13 kind of range would be my guess. Like I think it'd be higher than 8 or 9, but we're all just guessing because none of us do projections.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basically the thing that I look at with him in particular. It's like if you knew that Chris Brooks got the goal line touches, would you play the 4K Emmanuel Wilson?
Not a lot,
because like Chris Brooks is a better bully back.
Definitely not on FanDuel.
It's
definitely
like
not on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's where it's like, to me, I'm like, that's where my head's at. That's what I'm fearful of. I think Emmanuel Wilson will lead the backfield, and he will get 13 touches, 15 maybe, I don't know. But if he doesn't get goal line because Chris Brooks is a little bit bigger and a little bit more of a bruiser, then you're just like, dang. Like I have a 4K running back at low ownership probably, but just it doesn't feel good when you see Chris Brooks trot out there.
From the projection standpoint, I'm glad you said this. So like in that range, there's like he's the lead back, but this other guy does plenty of stuff. So like J.K. Dobbins projects for 12.6, DeAndre Swift projects for 12.4. This is DraftKings. Ramondre 12.4, Pacheco just shy of 12, right? Tony Pollard, like in that, I would put him kind of in that bucket of running back somewhere between 10 and 12 points or something like that, which is pretty good for $4,000 on DraftKings. JB Yankees says, any word on gotta have a Panthers talk, Jordan. I did see
we're alternating.
So the latest report was really funny out of Carolina. Yankees asked who's the lead back in Carolina, and they said they want to play both guys, right, with Chuba back, and that they went and studied the Lions and the Seahawks for how they use their backs. I'm like, I don't know that we should be studying how Seattle uses their running backs at all.
I don't know how they didn't just study the Panthers in the 2010s.
Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, and like why not that?
I mean, I'll say this. I do believe they should just alternate series. Like, there's no reason we can't just put one in and be like, oh, you had a 40-yard run, you're a little tired. Here's Chuba. Like, it's like the Panthers should be running the ball probably 40 to 50 times a game based on what I've been seeing from our run blocking. Like, there's someone who's able to put a truck on the field with the size gap that we created. And like Rico Dowdle's like, wow, this is absolutely awesome. I'm playing the Cowboys and the Dolphins. The Jets, obviously, not a great run defense, but it's one of those things. They're going to alternate. I don't want to touch either until I see it. And I think like both of them probably end up with like 15 to 18 touches.
Makes a ton of sense for me. Can we do that game super quickly? Because I think it can be very brief, though Garrett Wilson is out and we do have this Dowdle thing. Yeah. I'm leading the witness, Neil. I bet the under on this game. I would also bet the under on like whatever amount of time it takes to play this game, because this is like Army Navy, dude. Like, this is the NFL version of Army. Neither of these teams want to attempt a forward pass, and neither of them are really going to feel the pressure to attempt a forward pass. So, there's probably some interesting plays without Garrett Wilson, maybe Mason Taylor or something like that. But is there anybody else that stands out in this game for you?
I mean, Mason Taylor is one of my favorite plays on the slate. Like he just like with Garrett Wilson out, he was targeted before last game where he only was targeted once. The previous 3 games, he was targeted 24 times and it was ascending each game. He was targeted 12 times two games ago. They've been talking about like, we need to get the ball in Garrett Wilson's or in Mason Taylor's hands. Mason Taylor and Breece Hall, these are our playmakers. We need to get the ball in their hands. They had been only really getting it to Garrett Wilson prior to that. And they've been like following through, getting the ball to Mason Taylor. Now you take away Garrett Wilson and his like 33% target share, whatever it is. Like, I think Mason Taylor is the number one option in the passing game. So the question is just, what does that mean? I mean, he could have a 35% target share on 20 pass attempts and that's 7 targets, which is really good. It's still not like, 12, but so regardless, though, I think that Mason Taylor should be targeted pretty heavily here, and it's a nice spot for tight ends against Carolina. They've allowed the 5th most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to tight end. So I really like Mason Taylor. I think I'm going to be under on Breece Hall. I think, like I'm going to have some obviously but he's fairly chalky and there are other spots I'd rather get to. Like you said, this could be a game where just like nothing really goes off, and he's, a little bit more expensive. So Mason Taylor is a low enough price tag that if you get 10, 11 fantasy points, like that's fine. And then of course, if things go right and he gets 18, you're feeling really good. Whereas Breece Hall could, get 16, and like that really hurts you with the opportunity cost at running back. So I'll be under on Breece Hall. Really like Mason Taylor, will definitely be over on him. And then I think Josh Reynolds, the only other player I'll consider on the Jets, just because nobody's on him and he steps into the nominal wide receiver 1 role, which I don't think is worth all that much, but it might be worth something, and nobody's playing it. So I think Josh Reynolds is playable. And then on the other side, I'm not playing any Chuba. I might have a little bit of Dowdle because I think the reports we're getting could just be wrong. Like last week was supposed to be Hassan Haskins is the running back 1. Logically, it would make sense to go back to the guy who's broken the past 2 games for the Panthers with Rico Dowdle. So I think if I'm going to take any shots on the Panthers backfield, I might have a little bit of Rico Dowdle. And then I think the only other player I would consider there is Jalen Coker. We've got Michael Carter out for the Jets, who's the normal slot cornerback. So I think Jalen Coker in his return, we don't really know what the role is going to look like yet, but has been a pretty valuable role. The slot receiver on the Panthers when it was Thielen, who's peppered with targets. Obviously, that was before Teteroa McMillan, so you're not expecting the same kind of thing, but should be a good matchup. You get Teteroa McMillan is going to be shadowed by Sauce Gardner, so everything should line up well for Jalen Coker at a low price tag. So he's somebody that, honestly, I have not been talking about him at all throughout the week, but I'm getting more and more bullish to the point where it's like, maybe I'll have 3%.
I like it. Jordan, anything that we missed on this one? I should have been over the Breece Hall thing, because I think obviously he's 6,300. They're really going to build the plane out of him and Justin Fields on the ground. It's just there's a lot of opportunity cost at running back, and he is projecting to be the second highest owned running back on the slate. So that's kind of my cause for concern.
If you're 150ing, I think Justin Fields and Mason Taylor as a stack is very, very just intriguing. Just because Justin Fields low ownership can run against the Panthers, wouldn't be shocking. This is the first pure running quarterback that we faced. I don't know how we'll defend that. Like our EPA versus rush, I know everybody's talking about the great, resurgence of this defense. And I tried to say week 1, just could not get that to happen until we flipped our linebackers. But with Jalen Coker, the one thing I'll add with the Jets, the Jarvis Brownlee trade, they brought him in and he's playing the slot, and he was phenomenal in their first game. That dude in the slot was sticky, and I don't like it. I don't know if Jalen Coker is going to be able to get open against him, because a lot of the Jalen Coker plays are broken plays. Everybody likes to point out his 72-yard touchdown against the Cowboys because that raises his yards per out run every which way. Watch the play again. A lot of people fell down. Nobody was covering him, and he just kind of walked in the end zone. This kid is phenomenal. I'm interested to see how that changes the Jets secondary. They obviously hung with the Broncos, and they had -10 net passing yards. They hung for a reason. Their defense was actually showing up. So
makes a ton of sense. One more question around Josh Jacobs as a people are asking sort of for pivots, and specifically someone asked about, is Saquon a good pivot off of Josh Jacobs? I believe you answered it, Neil, but just for anybody that didn't see it in the chat, what do you think about pivoting off of Josh Jacobs to someone like Saquon or anyone else that's of interest to you?
Yeah, Vikings kind of a run funnel defense. So Saquon not great this year, but I think this is a spot where they could get him going. Yeah, I think that is a strong pivot there. Anyone else as Josh Jacobs pivots? I think we all also kind of said like Josh Jacobs. I don't know, like even if he's active, I think it's a cause for concern with the calf. Yeah. So pivots off of Josh Jacobs, Jordan, Saquon, and if there's anyone else, obviously we'll talk about JT's a little bit more expensive. We'll talk about that, but anyone, or is it just Saquon?
It's Saquon in that tier. There's no other. If you get rid of the games against the Bengals with Jake Browning and the Bears in week 1, new offense, the Vikings are allowing the second most yards before contact in the NFL. Like Tyler Algier and Bijan had over 70 yards rushing against that defense. That was a hilarious stat that I did not realize Tyler Algier had that good of a game. Like if Saquon can't do it in this matchup, if it's not like some crazy defensive touchdown and they're getting blown out early, if it's a competitive game like it's supposed to be and Saquon is incapable of rushing, I don't know if Saquon's ever going to have a good game. It's kind of crazy.
Also of note for there, Landon Dickerson is active for the Eagles. He was questionable. It's a big deal for him at guard. I'll also note we talked about Jalen Carter is active. Quinyon Mitchell is active also for the Eagles. Also, AJ Dillon is inactive. My 3 Will Shipley touches I'm praying for today are really going to be a lot of fun when I get them. Finally, we got AJ Dillon riding the pine, but Sam Howell and AJ Dillon inactive for the Eagles. All right, let's talk about Washington and Dallas, because I think we've hit on weather and the injury stuff and Rashee and the Browns, and we've hit on kind of all of these popular stuff. This is next, and that is in no hierarchy, right? This is right there with all the other stuff that we have to decide upon. Neil, how are you approaching this one? Because it's certainly going to be popular. Jaden Daniels and Dak Prescott are going to be popular. People, first game back for CeeDee Lamb. Who cares, right? We're playing CeeDee Lamb. I mean, I like CeeDee Lamb too. This is not. I'm not throwing shade, right? We have a bunch of value. No Terry McLaurin, no Deebo Samuel. Bills at a good price. Ertz, the Commanders wide receivers. There's a lot to digest here. What do you think about this game this is the real course field? I don't want to hear about this Dolphins garbage. This is the real course field.
I mean, this game, yeah, you're right. This game has a huge total. Both sides of this game could go off. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I'll be playing this game. I like you. It's defensible to go away from it, but this game is maybe the best game we've had this year. Like in terms of the projection for it, just like this, it should go off. It'd be kind of surprising if there are not 50+ points scored in this game. I will note CeeDee Lamb, another potential pivot option. If you have Josh Jacobs in your flex spot, you can always pivot to CeeDee Lamb there as well. CeeDee Lamb looks great. He's returning. I'm expecting a full workload. I think the general consensus is that we're expecting a full workload from CeeDee Lamb in his first game back. So yeah, really like CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens at half the ownership. Now that has come up, and I will say that that's kind of the bummer this morning is everywhere has raised their ownership projections on Dak and Pickens, who were like one of my biggest takes all week has been Dak at 5% ownership. Yeah, I'm going to jam Dak at 5% ownership. That's awesome. And now is more than double that projected ownership. And it's like, okay, now it's not quite the jam, but I still like Dak at 12% ownership. That's kind of the number where I'm like, I still think I'll be overweight on Dak at 12% ownership. Like the chalk just isn't chalky enough a lot of the time. And I think this is one of those spots against this Commanders defense. Gets his number one weapon back. They're going to be throwing it a lot. So love some Dak stacks. I think you can double stack. I think that might be a way to be a little bit unique, is to double stack with both Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. I don't think I'm going to get to a ton of Jake Ferguson just because, again, a lot of tight ends that I really love on this slate. Ferguson's fine, but he's 5,500. He's priced as though CeeDee Lamb is still out. So it's tough for him to pay that off unless he like really retains the role he's had. So I don't think I get to much Ferguson. It's mostly CeeDee Lamb, Pickens, and then Javonte Williams, also, a fairly strong play here. He's just 6,700. Javonte, outside of last week, has just been crushing it. Now he gets this Commanders defense that I think he should have some success against. Projected to be pretty chalky, so I don't think it's like a big stand I'm taking where I'm going to be overweight to the 20-some percent ownership he's going to get. I suspect I'll be right around 15 to 20% Javonte, so I guess not like a huge stand there, but I do think you have to mention that he is also a strong play. And then on the Commander side, like you said, it's a mess. Jaden Daniels projected to be the chalkiest quarterback on the slate. I don't think I'm going to get to where the field is at 20+% ownership on Jaden. It's defensible. Again, playing against Dallas, we saw even Justin Fields put up 25 on Dallas, 18 of it or something in the fourth quarter. Think of what Jaden Daniels should be able to do. He is missing all of his top weapons. So it's like, can he do this without his top weapons? I think he might be able to, just because he does so much on the ground as well. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to be with the field on Jaden. I think he won't be my most exposed quarterback, but I'll certainly make sure I have some. Bill is probably my favorite. Bill and Ertz, I guess, are my two favorite on the Commanders. Bill projected for right at 20% ownership. I like that better than Javonte, actually, because he is cheaper, and I think it's actually a better matchup for Bill than it is for Javonte. So yeah, I'll lean in on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt a bit. Not really involved in the passing game, so it doesn't have the highest floor, but I think just the volume could be really strong. But then Zach Ertz, I think Zach Ertz probably steps in to be the number one pass catching option on the Commanders, and he is tight end eligible. Like I said, there are a lot of tight ends that I love on this slate, so that makes it tougher, because there are on some slates there are like three different tight ends that I would be like, yes, this is the jam. You got to play all of this guy. But it's so like there's so many that I love here that I can't get to like 30% Ertz, because there are so many others I like. But I think I'll be overweight to the 17-18% that he's likely to get. And then of the receivers, I guess we should all give our take on the receivers here, because I think it's still just Chris Moore. Like I think based on what we've seen so far, 74% route participation last week for Chris Moore. I think that continues to ascend. He looked pretty good, was targeted a bit last week. So I think he is like the most, at least the safest of the wide receivers on the Commanders. And he's just 3,000. So I think it's probably Chris Moore number one for me. And then I think it's Luke McCaffrey number two. I think different places project it as Jalen Lane as the higher projection, and maybe you want to forecast the rookie bump. But to me, it's Jalen Lane is like just a hair behind Luke McCaffrey. So it's more than McCaffrey, than Lane for me. But I don't feel super confident in that. So I'd like to hear you guys' takes as well.
I'm going to let Jordan go first because I have a passionate take about the wide receivers as people might expect. But lot to digest in this one, Jordan. I agree pretty much with absolutely everything that Neil just said, but what do you got here?
CeeDee Lamb and Bill is the way I'm playing this. Cowboys are just so awful against the run, and I know everybody's going to try to go to those Washington pass catchers. I'm going to play Marvin Mims, but out of the Washington pass catchers, if you're choosing to go that route, it's Luke McCaffrey, and it's unquestionably Luke McCaffrey to me because of the fact that I think he is getting Debo's role. Like if you're in the offense, the way they've used Deebo Samuel this year is the way they're going to use Luke McCaffrey today. And you have Jalen Lane that's going to just be the guy that runs deep. And maybe that works, but it's Jalen Lane. It's not Teteroa McMillan. It's not Garrett Wilson. It's not these top receivers that have done it against the Cowboys. Yes, the Cowboys are getting broken down in coverage. It's Jalen Lane. It's not these top. If it was Terry McLaurin there, I would be very, very excited. Ertz will work the middle of the field. If I know that someone put out there that the Cowboys are going to work in more man coverage, I think they're going to be more, like match coverage, not man. Man is this. If they play man against the Commanders, and that's the week they decide we're just going to guard our guy in front of us. That's a terrible decision. This is a team where you need to contain Jaden Daniels, and they don't really contain all that well. And zone coverage allows eyes on the backfield for him. When he breaks, you can break with him. But yeah, that's pretty much the only things I'll add to that game.
They sat back in zone in week 1 against Jalen Hurts, and all eyes were on Jalen Hurts, and they still couldn't tackle him. Maybe they would look. The Cowboys defense, I put nothing past them in terms of being incompetent this year, but I think it would be a little shocking if they just given the fact that Terry and Debo are out, like Noah Brown is out as well.
Hunter Renfrow inactive because Jalen Coker is just taking the slot. Yep,
season.
Jimmy Horn made it over him.
Yeah, poor Hunter Renfrow. But they had to bring him back anyway. So like J3 says, you guys talked. I think Chris Moore is going to be in the Chris Moore role, right? Chris, like we saw last week, that's what Chris Moore is going to do. I think Jalen Lane is like fun. So like for like full transparency, like I bet receiving overs on all these guys earlier in the week. We got a little lucky because then Debo got ruled out as well. So it's better to be lucky than good a lot of the times. But I should have, like I said, I should have went before Jordan on this one too. It's Luke McCaffrey for me. He's been. It's not just like I agree with absolutely everything in terms of the role he's going to step into. It's like maybe the best one on the team, and he has been phenomenal. Like really good. Jalen Lane is like this kind of like he's 5'10", 190 pounds. Like they drafted him because he's like a little jitterbug, return man, like weapon gadget. Like he can do some stuff at wide receiver. You saw the really awesome downfield catch last week, like awesome play by Jalen Lane. I think he can play, and I think he's gonna be involved. Of course, it's like can he hit a home run against the Cowboys? Sure, yeah. It's the Cowboys, right? If there's a guy who's like the go-to guy that's not Zach Ertz in the passing game and is also producing efficiently, I think it's Luke McCaffrey because of everything Jordan said with the role, but also fun stat. Now, obviously, he hasn't run a whole ton of routes because he's been kind of the wide receiver 4 or 5, whatever, throughout the course of the season. But amongst all wide receivers in the entire NFL through 6 weeks with at least 10 targets, he's 4th in yards per route run. So he's up there with the Pukas of the world in terms of efficiency on a per route basis. Now he's only run 73 routes. So like, you catch a couple long ones in 73 routes, you're going to have a pretty good yards per route run, but I don't need him to be Puka. He's 4,100 on DraftKings, right? And this is the Cowboys. That's my sort of like flag plant, if you will. I'm hedging a little bit by betting on all of these guys because it is the Dallas Cowboys. But from a DFS perspective, I feel pretty strongly about Luke McCaffrey. But like, dude, anybody in this game, honestly, like Bill looks awesome. This is such a great bounce back spot for Bill. I thought he was going to smash last week and, fumbled, and it just didn't, the game didn't go quite his way. Not going to catch a lot of passes, but I still love the Pickens call. I would be shocked if the Pickens ownership even honestly comes in at where it totally is. I think CD ownership might run away and Pickens just stays totally fine. So I'm cool with that. Love Zach Ertz, which I can't believe I'm saying in the year of our Lord 2025, but I just think he's an awesome play. So yeah, just sign me up for everybody in this game. Anything that we missed that you guys want to touch on here, because it is an important one.
Nothing in this game.
No.
All right, let's talk about let's do running back, because we're going to talk about some of these other games, and there's some more receivers and everything to touch on, but we haven't hit on all of the running backs. Neil, when you start to look at running back outside of the guys that we've talked about here, who have we missed that are going to be a priority for you today?
I mean, we haven't talked about Jonathan Taylor, and in the sims that I'm running, even at 8,800, even at like 25% ownership, I'm getting to like 50% Jonathan Taylor in my initial sims. Like, he just sims out so well. He has crushed all year, I think, and it's easy to get there because we have so much value on this slate. So I'll be playing a lot of Jonathan Taylor. I don't think I really need to break it down too much. It's a nice matchup with the Chargers. He's been crushing. You should play some Jonathan Taylor most likely. We've already talked about Quinshon Judkins, Javonte, Breece Hall, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and Saquon. So I won't get into those guys. J.K. Dobbins, one who that, like, when I initially opened the slate, I saw J.K. Dobbins playing against the Giants. That's one of the spots that I'm always looking, like, who's playing the Giants this week? Who's playing the Dolphins? Like, they're one of those, like, who's the running back against the Giants? Because teams have been able to run against the Giants so far this year. And J.K. Dobbins, I think, is like the pretty clear lead back in Denver, which I hate to say it because I was big on RJ Harvey all summer, and just does not seem like Sean Payton has any confidence at all in RJ Harvey. And on top of that, it seems like he really loves J.K. Dobbins. Like, went out of his way to make sure that he got the 100-yard bonus. Like, it was important to get to, not the bonus, but to get to 100 yards. They had a streak of no. I mean, they're thinking in DFS terms, like, that's how I saw it. They're getting him the 100-yard bonus, but no, just getting to 100 yards, because they had a streak of not getting 100-yard games. And J.K. Dobbins was like upset about it. Like, he wanted to get. He was like, I don't know why they pulled me in that last game. And then against Cincinnati, like, they went out of their way to make sure, even in a blowout, to get him to that 100 yards before they took him out. So I really think Sean Payton likes J.K. Dobbins, like, just like trusts him. So I think J.K. Dobbins here in a run funnel matchup with the Giants, I think they're going to lean on him, and I think it's a nice spot for him. And he's not getting a ton of ownership, so not like a great projection, but is a player that I want to play some. If he's just getting like barely double-digit ownership, I'm going to be pretty well over the field, I think, on Dobbins. I might get to a little bit of Ramondre Stevenson again, just from like Vrabel's just gonna run it
this
down.
This is sad. J.K. Dobbins next to RJ Harvey and Ramondre next to Travion. This takes me back to the summer and makes me want to throw things.
I mean, I was just thinking, like, man, this would have been a nice game for Jarquez Hunter to be active this morning. Like, all of the rookie running backs that I was taking late, is like, they're just all dead. Like, none of them are gonna hit. Come on, right? Yeah, it's pretty brutal. But yeah, I think you can get to a little bit of Ramondre. I've actually heard people talking about Travion. I guess it's defensible, but I don't think, honestly, I don't think I'm going to get that deep at running back. I mean, I already talked about that I'm getting to some Isaiah Pacheco, but that's like the deepest that I'm going as far as like off the wall plays. I think for the most part, we've covered the guys. Like, I think I'm going to be under the field on HN. I think, although his ownership number has come down quite a bit, like barely double digits, I still think I'm probably going to be, I guess, like right with the field there. I thought it was going to be closer to 20%. Now it's more like, okay, that's about where I want to be. I might get to a tiny bit of Mason, but generally I think we've covered like the running backs that are priorities for me.
B mentions in the chat this summer I coined the rookie running back trio of Amarian Hampton, Travion Henderson, and RJ Harvey, Triple H, because they are, of course, all last name starting with H. It's a fun little bit. Yeah. It was a lot more fun before the games started. That is for sure. And then Hampton or at least we could lash on to Hampton for a couple of weeks, and then that went to hell. But Jordan, running backs that we haven't touched on.
Nothing. I'm pretty much just playing between Saquon, JT, Ja'Cory, and Quinshon. I'm not a 150 builder, so I don't have to get to those other guys. I will say, I think it's going to be really, really, really funny when Kendra Miller goes off against Dennis Allen because of how much the way that guy talked about him.
Oh, man.
That is a good call.
Like that is, and Kamara's been questionable and different things. Like I think Kellen Moore's like, they're the Saints right now, and we just want to have team morale. And like Kendra Miller has been getting work, and he just goes off against Dennis Allen, and I think he might flick him off in the end zone. Like it's one of those types of, like, I don't know why he hated him so much, but my God, what's those press conferences stuff? So I think Kendra's the only deep shot, I'll say, for anybody building 150 lineups.
A literal revenge game, like that's not just like I used to play for them. This is like like I would like to fight you. Who was the guy that when they did their jersey, they had something
Kittle?
written on the shirt? What was it? Kittle that
Well,
had something
Kittle
written
at the F Dallas one.
Yeah,
one of the times.
Kendra's gonna have like F Dennis Allen waiting for the touchdown for sure. That's hilarious. I see your question, Mark. I see some of the other questions in the chat. We will get to those quickly though. I do want to hit some of the other like stacks plays, right? Just like, because I know Jordan's got one that I'll let him talk about that I love as well. There's Colts Chargers passing games that I think are both pretty interesting, and Josh Downs is out. QJ is back in that game. So Neil, let's just talk about some of these kind of other stacks play, just kind of fill in the gaps essentially, because there's still some other fun plays that we really haven't even gotten to, especially like I said, with Downs out, Jordan likes the Broncos, etc. But what have we missed?
Yeah, I mean, I already talked about Cleveland, which is like the grossest passing game I'm going to get to at all. But the grossest that I'm going to get to in any like kind of meaningful way is Spencer Rattler's stacks. I really like Olave here, just like I talked about with Scott Barrett yesterday, just the expected fantasy points, just like not hitting. He's not getting the fantasy points, but the expected fantasy points have been there consistently this year, one of the leaders in the NFL. And this seems like a spot where those expected fantasy points should be able to catch up to him against the Bears. So I really like, I'm going to actually play Spencer Rattler, who's 4,800, but also really like his receivers in Chris Olave, who's a little bit chalky, so I'm not going to be that far. I might be over the field, but probably not that far. But then Rashid Shaheed, I'm certainly going to be over the field at 4,500 in a great matchup with the Bears. Love some Shaheed here, so I'll be doing Rattler, some single stacks with each of those, but then also doubles. It's a spot where I'll probably have 10% Rattler, which is well over the field. Outside, and then the other side, obviously Caleb also you can get to. We've talked about that. Like Caleb just looks better. You can play him with Rome. I think that's kind of the primary way I'm going to be going. I don't know that I'll get to a ton of like DJ Moore or any of the other Bears pass catchers. I think it's primarily going to be just Rome Odunze with Caleb. Let's see. I think I'll get to a bit of Justin Fields with Mason Taylor, but it's not like a huge priority. Just like I'll mix in a bit, and then Justin Herbert with QJ is going to be a stack that I'm getting to a fair amount. Maybe I'll mix in a little bit of Vlad or Keenan, but it's primarily just going to be Herbert and QJ are the two that are going to be the core of that stack, and then I'll maybe mix in secondary pieces. We already talked about Dak and Jaden, so don't need to get into that anymore. I
like that a lot. QJ seems like he's been like really popular for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then he just like out of sight, out of mind for a blink and comes back and like is in a really good spot in like one of the better games of the day, and it's like nobody is interested anymore, right? Like goodbye, it was fun, QJ. We're on to the next thing. Jordan, obviously talk about some Broncos stuff, but then Justin Jefferson is projecting to be pretty popular, and we haven't talked about him. We haven't really talked about that game aside from Saquon, right? AJ Brown's 5,800, and we're an hour in and we haven't talked about him, which feels kind of funny but also fitting. What else? What have we missed?
So, but I'll explain the Denver stack because I have just said it and not actually spoken about it. But Bo Nix in matchups when it's like the Giants or these bottom feeder teams in the NFL, they just look to blow him out and let Bo Nix be the guy that just showcases, hey, I'm really good at football. And last week, obviously, they weren't able to do it against the Jets, but it's a London game or wherever they're playing, and those games are always just a weird dynamic. With Bo Nix, first off, they're honoring Demaryius Thomas this weekend, and Demaryius Thomas mentored Courtland Sutton when he came into the league. He still keeps on some of the traditions that Demaryius Thomas is. So, like, there's a feel-good approach to it, but then also in games where Courtland Sutton doesn't get 4 targets, the very next week, he averages 10 targets a game. Bo Nix has talked about it repeatedly. Like when I look at a box score and I don't see that I targeted Courtland Sutton, I want to get to him as much as possible. And this is the type of game against the Giants who run a ton of man coverage, and they don't have the corners that can truly cover Cortland Sutton one-on-one, in my opinion, with Paulson Adebo or Deontay Banks. Abdul Carter was randomly questionable with a hamstring injury. That's a significant pass rusher to lose from what he's been doing this year. Bo Nix is just one of those guys against man coverage. Last season, his ADOT was top in the league. He loves to throw the ball downfield when he gets man coverage. Giants run man coverage at one of the highest rates in the league. And this is a spot where, yeah, the feel-good story, you can pair them. It's easy. It's not chalky whatsoever. And then the third piece to me is Marvin Mims. Over the last 2 seasons, that's who Marvin Mims is good against. I actually laddered him on Scores and Odds for anybody. It's disgusting, but it's plus 4,200 for him to have over 100 yards receiving today. It doesn't take a lot for Mims, and this matchup is just beautiful on paper. Other than Bo Nix, I don't really like anybody besides, I'll mention Jordan Love again. If Josh Jacobs doesn't play, they're just gonna pass more. Like, they just kind of have to. So like Jordan Love is in a spot against Arizona where it's like it's in a dome. They're probably not gonna, like Jacoby Brissett makes you want to be more competitive. I think he's fairly interesting. I don't know about the weather in Chicago and New Orleans, which is why I don't love Caleb as much. But yeah, there's nothing else for me. I'm not touching a Bryce Young or any of those little like lower tier, like Tua, none of those guys in that tier.
I will toss 2 more sort of stacks in there. If you want to get real grosser than Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler, it remains to be seen. But Jacoby Brissett, he was good last week. He was straight up good last week. Marv is fine. Donked his head on the turf last week and wasn't able to come back. And throwing to Zay Jones, Greg Dortch, and Michael Wilson, Jacoby Brissett was like really good. Obviously, Trey McBride, right, is the focal point there. Trey McBride would be my preferred stack, right? That's more of a large field play or whatever, but he's very cheap. The Packers' pass defense has been quite bad, and theoretically, right, Arizona's going to be playing from behind. They have no running backs, right? It's like it's kind of on. Brissett's still doing the sneak stuff, by the way, the OG QB sneaker at the quarterback position. The tush push is all the rage, but people don't know about Jacoby Brissett back in the day. But I don't think it's absolutely crazy. I'm on the Bo Nix thing as well, and then love Jonathan Taylor. Quite frankly, I'm probably just going to play Jonathan Taylor, but Daniel Jones against this Chargers defense is just right. It doesn't have to be Daniel Jones, or it doesn't have to be Jonathan Taylor that scores all the points every single week. And DJ's still scoring like 20 points a week when Jonathan Taylor, like, he can throw a touchdown to Jonathan Taylor. Josh Downs is out, which makes it a little, it's kind of like when QJ was out. It's like, it just makes these things a little bit clearer in terms of who, Alec Pierce can hit a home run. Michael Pittman is the preferred wide receiver 1, and Tyler Warren is at tight end, of course. So it makes things a little bit cleaner from a stack perspective. You have QJ on the other side, or Vidal, if you like that, right? Lad, whatever. That game is kind of fun. But the big thing for me is I'm being really cognizant that I wanted to touch on. I'm also in on the Cortland Sutton thing. Look, I love a good narrative. My ears perked up when I thought about the Kendre revenge stuff. But I just think the afternoon, like putting together your teams so that you make sure in the afternoon, are you behind? Are you ahead? Is Josh Jacobs in? Is Josh Jacobs out? Is Nate Hobbs playing? Is whatever, and being ready to adjust your teams in the afternoon. Like I said, if you play Judkins and the Browns defense, that's all you play in the early games. And Judkins goes for 30 and the Browns defense goes for 20. Like, yep, give me CD, right? Give me JT, give me whatever. Give me all the good stuff. If I play Judkins and the Browns defense and Judkins has 8 and the Browns defense scores 6, it's like, okay, right now, what do we got? Right now, I'm going to go to the Love, Kraft, Dobbs, whatever. Or, I'm thinking about that. I think today, it's the first time this year where I've really felt that, where I'm like, okay, we got to think about this. And like right now, when I'm putting together, not just like, oh crap, this didn't go well, swap, right, which you do every single week, but this week is like, I'm thinking ahead to like, how many guys do I play early? Like what are my exposures and stuff looking like based upon what can I plan for in the afternoon?
Yeah, definitely a great late swap kind of slate with Josh Jacobs, and also like beyond just like injury stuff. Like we don't, people don't often think of late swapping when nothing has changed, but like it does make sense when it's like, oh, the rest of my lineup, like I have a lot of points to make up. Maybe I shouldn't play the chalky CeeDee Lamb in the afternoon. Maybe I should go something. Maybe I should swap to George Pickens because I have a lot of points I need to make up. Like George Pickens, maybe the better, or like if you're playing from ahead and you like your lineup is crushing and you've got George Pickens in there, maybe you want to block more players with CeeDee Lamb. So yeah, you're right. This is a great one to think through late swap on this slate more than most.
All right, let's hit a couple of questions, and then we got to do our weekly defensive takes. Aaron asked, are you concerned with the Chicago weather? We kind of touched on that before. Neil answered it in the chat, and I think the general collective is like that. Every time somebody asks, like, aren't you worried? I'm like, yes, right? The answer is right. I'm worried about absolutely everything. But like, I don't think we're like adjusting anything too much because of that. If the guys are like, our exposure is going to be what our exposure is. If the exposure is light on anything in that game, I think it's just because we like other plays, not so much about the weather. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yep, exactly.
Marie wants to know Dobbins or Kamani Vidal, Jordan?
Obviously, I'm playing the Bo Nix stack, so obviously I hope it's not, but I would like Dobbins over Kamani Vidal. Like, he did it against the Dolphins defense. It would not surprise me if Hassan Haskins got more touches than him this week.
Hassan Haskins questionable. I will just add that's another thing in the afternoon I think he's going to play is what it looks like. But if Haskins is out now, it's another thing to monitor for the afternoon. But Neil, I assume you liked Dobbins quite a bit, so Dobbins over Vidal.
Correct. Yep, I like Dobbins better.
Marky asked best commander wide receiver to pick up. They are all available. Jordan and I are Luke McCaffrey, but Neil, are you on Luke, Moore, Jalen Lane? What do you think?
I think you've sold me on Luke McCaffrey being the best pickup there.
Just raw. That would just be raw points. I'm starting up far too much Luke McCaffrey and stuff in all my season-long things. So there's just absolutely no way that this goes well. Let's see. Bill or Pickens, Neil? Just like raw points. Obviously, Pickens a little bit more expensive, but who would you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, raw points, I suppose it would probably be Pickens, but I don't even know if that's right. It looks like they're projected almost the exact same. Like I think Bill is the better play in DFS. I'm going to have more Bill, I guess, would be the answer there. But if you're talking like season long, I guess it would be Bill because he's a running back, just a little bit safer.
This one's gross, but we did talk about Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, right? Xavier Worthy. Jacoby Myers is out. It's hilarious that happened, and we were just like, what? I guess I was just like, But we have no Brock Bowers and no Jacoby Myers. Jordan, is there anything to sink our teeth into, like maybe as bring back, right? Or just in general, Trey Tucker, Jack Besh, Dante Thornton, Michael Mayer, anything on the Raiders?
Jack Besh is interesting. I think he would be the one that would just play where Jacoby Myers plays, and he just gets 10 like at 3K. Like that's very, very possible. I'm not touching that deep wide receiver room. I'm good. I'll pass. Like I actually like the Chiefs defense quite a lot. I know we haven't gotten to our defense takes. That is another pathway for Rashee Rice to fail.
It's a great call. Touchdowns. That is a great call. Neil, anything on the Raiders?
I mean, Michael Mayer, a different slate. I would love Michael Mayer. Just that there are other tight ends that I love so much that it's like he's kind of an afterthought, but he projects really well point per dollar. So I guess he would be the other one that stands out from the Raiders that I'll definitely have some exposure to. Trey Tucker also, I guess, like put up 40 points a few weeks ago. I'm not going to play a ton of Trey Tucker, but I think he's playable.
I think he's like interesting. Again, more so probably in like large field stuff, but like I don't know. Like if the Chiefs are really going to score this many points, like the Raiders are going to throw. Somebody's got to catch some passes at a certain point. I did like this. Neil would play Wilson's cleaning lady in a 150 set. Don't ask him. I enjoyed that. That comment was pretty good. Zolo asked, isn't Arizona pretty good against the run anyway? They have been a little bit more of a pass funnel, Jordan. And so if we don't get Josh Jacobs, does the Arizona defense specifically like change anything for you at all? Or is it just kind of like I like everything about Green Bay.
So the way that Gannon plays like defense is very interesting. They have a unique scheme. They play their safeties basically like 8 yards off the ball instead of the normal 12 to 15, which obviously allows you to like want to take shot plays. But the problem is they have a 5-man front and you're basically it's 1-on-1. And if one of their guys is winning against your tackles and stuff, it's kind of very difficult to do so. So this game against the Packers, like I said, like I think that they're going to be throwing a little bit more if Jacobs doesn't play. So there is opportunity to do it. But if Jacobs is out of the lineup, their safeties could go back to like 10 to 12 and change up their defense, because why would you care? Like, if Emmanuel Wilson's going to run, all right, let him run. Like, we'll figure it out. Like, why would you want to do that? The bigger thing, too, with them is the reason they do this is because of the McVays and all these other schemes that want to kill you on deep crossers. If your safeties aren't so far back, they're able to jump those deep crossers. And that is one of the throws that Jordan Love makes at a very, very high rate.
Wow, Terrence Ferguson even getting on the board. The Jags are just handing out touchdowns to everybody. It's not just Devontae Adams, Xavier Smith, Terrence Ferguson. Good Lord.
Not a Mumfield, not Xavier Smith.
You're right. Xavier Smith's playing, but
Mumfield was fun in college. I love that guy. Well, I love Cade Bell from Pittsburgh. But
Xavier Smith, the preseason god, and Kanata Mumfield is apparently the regular season god. Rank these 4 running backs, 2 of which we didn't talk a lot about, which I think is interesting. Neil, Cam Scatterbu, Breece Hall, Bill, and Jordan Mason, who we didn't touch on. Rank those 4.
I like for DFS with considering ownership and everything. I still think it's Bill is number 1 there. Probably still Breece Hall number 2, even with ownership. Like, I don't love Breece Hall, but I'm going to have more Breece Hall. So in terms of like my exposure, to be Bill, then Breece Hall, then probably Jordan Mason, followed by Scatterbu. I don't know, Scatterbu not getting a ton of ownership either. It's a tough matchup with Denver. So yeah, I think that's the order for me. I think it's Scatterbu last, but I just like Scatterbu is going to continue shoving me in a locker like his entire career, I think. So you can kind of take that with a grain of salt.
He is the kind of guy that definitely shoved people in lockers, by the way, when he was in high school. Jordan, you got any on those that we haven't touched on? Scatterbu, Jordan Mason. I think they're like in other weeks, right? Those guys at those prices with their workloads might be interesting, but maybe just not this one.
On the 4 p.m. slate, I would run back Scatterbu for my Denver stacks. I think he is playable any single week. I don't like the matchup. It doesn't, because he catches 7 passes. He could also get 20 carries. Like, if you're telling me, hey, Denver's front is just getting every single sack every single week, they're going to throw screens. Like, they're going to give them the ball out of the backfield. Can he break tackles? Probably. Like, the dude just loves to headbutt people, and it's just it's tough. He's a tough tackle. Like, I'm team Scatterbu forever. So I will. My brother, actually, funny enough, quick story. He watched his Sacramento State film and drafted him in our college football league. That's just gosh. P4. Like, he has been on Scatterbu, and he drafted him in like the 14th round. I was like, who is this guy? He's like, trust me, you're going to know the name. And then he was fantastic. That is, my brother also found Philip Lindsay. So he's very good at that, like obscure things to find.
Wow. What's he doing on Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern? All right, let's give some defense takes, and then of course our flag plant call on the get crunch time on in here. Jordan, you were the first one to sort of mention a defense. What's your favorite defense today?
It's the Chiefs. Geno Smith has been atrocious. They can't block anybody, and I also am not super high on Rashee Rice. It's like, hey, how does this all fail? And also, funny enough, Broncos defense is showing as the highest owned defense, and I've got Bo Nix stacked. So I believe the Chiefs defense could have multiple defensive touchdowns, multiple sacks, turnovers against Geno. Raiders team is just awful, and they need that type of game on their defensive side of the ball because they've been playing pretty poorly lately for Spags' standards.
It's a great call. Neil, what do you think about defense?
Yeah, I'm disappointed to see that all the defenses that I like are the chalk. The Browns are the one that stand out to me. They are like the 4th chalkiest on the slate, one of the few that's projected for double-digit ownership. But I just think that the Browns in a potential weather game, great defense against Miami and Tua. Like, I think they're gonna force a lot of pressure and maybe get some turnovers there. So the Browns stand out to me.
Keep your questions coming. We will pass those off to crunch time here in just a minute. I see them, I promise, but we'll be getting out of here in just a minute. Looks like crunch time will be up in just a second. Neil stole I'm getting all my takes stolen today. I don't know. That's not good for you guys, but the Cleveland Browns are it for me. If there's a quarterback and an offense and a team that I can just envision, it just straight up circus. in bad weather on the road against a really good Cleveland Browns defense. Like, can Tua hold on to a wet football? Like, Myles Garrett against that offensive line in the wind and rain and everything feels like an absolute feeding frenzy. So I'm very much, I agree with both of you guys on those defenses. I will also shout out Jordan's Carolina Panthers if you really want to get funky in some tournaments. No Garrett Wilson. I know they're not going to throw, so there's not going to be a lot of opportunities, but like Fields can throw 2 picks and fumble in the very minimal amount of pass attempts that they're going to throw. And I don't know how anyone gets open for these wide receivers.
We went 4 weeks of just bashing the Carolina Panthers. Look at how far
you won, Jordan.
Look at that. Look at that, guys.
You beat us down.
We paid. We put $60 million into our defensive line, and it worked. Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers are giving up 400 yards with 170 million committed to theirs.
Being shoved in a locker is what Rico Dowdle has done to me so much I'm now talking about Carolina Panthers.
I don't want anybody to ever ask me who's the player for the Panthers today because I'm sick of it. I cannot figure us out. I mean, I played Tet. He scored twice. And it just didn't matter. Like, it did not stop anything.
I know. That was so frustrating. But you get another opportunity. Jordan, I'll let you go first with a flag plant today. I think I know who it is, but I'll let you go anyway.
I'll let you have Mr. Sutton. I'm going to flag plant Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims is the cheap receiver because I see, obviously, nobody's going to play him. It's Marvin Mims. He doesn't play a lot of snaps. But these are the matchups where Marvin Mims has the explosive game. And scores and odds, I laddered him over 100 yards. I'm gladly playing him at 3,300 with my Bo Nix stacks, and he will go for. I'm going to say I'll be lighter. I'll say 70 and a touchdown instead of the 100 bonus.
I love it, Neil. What do you got?
Mason Taylor. I mean, going to be targeted 35% of the time, I think. I don't know on how many targets that might be 11 total pass attempts, but it could also be 30. And if it is 30, we're going to feel really good about it. And he's not especially chalky in a great matchup with Carolina. So yeah, I think Mason Taylor is in for a good game here.
I love it. I will say Jordan's real flag brand was Courtland Sutton. He's having fun with Marvin Mims. That is mine as well. I think Courtland Sutton is just an absolute home run today. I think you can bet his props. I think he scores a touchdown. I think he's a great DFS play. All of the above. But I will also add, if I'm giving another flag brand, it's Luke McCaffrey day, man. It's Luke McCaffrey day. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 in Washington. That's the guy you need in Coors Field. Luke McCaffrey is like Bryce Turang hitting in Coors Field or something. It's like he's really not that good, but anybody can do it in Coors Field. So pay your $6,000 for Bryce Turang or whatever. But enough baseball talk. Let's bring on crunch time and get to the goods. All right, guys. Travis Hunter finally scores as we are segueing over to you guys. So hopefully you guys can take these people home to lock. But Chief, is your day going better than the Jacksonville Jaguars so far?
Absolutely. My day's going great. If you guys didn't know, I am from the Carolinas. And so my hopes have not been up. The Carolina Panthers might still flame out. But it's actually just good to finally see them win some games without Cam Newton playing at quarterback. So
hey, we have 2 Panthers fans on the RGT. That is way too many. That is absolutely insane. I mean, I don't like Bryce Young still, but I like our run game.
I do not.
Let's run it 60 times a game. I don't care.
Yeah, I still think we've got a long way to go, but we've actually won some games this year. So kudos to the team. I'll just fire up the TV and watch again today. So I'm going to tell you why the Carolina Panthers are winning, and then I promise I'll get out of your way. My wife has started watching the games with me. So every game she's watched with me this year, they have won. She is now fully committed to sit in front of the TV screen and watch the Carolina Panthers. And so she should be watching the game with me today. Jordan, we're just going to go ahead and count this as a dub. This is my wife's run. Has nothing to do with us. This is all my wife. We've become sports superstitious now, which I've never done in my life.
Kyle, how do you top forcing your wife to watch Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers? How do you top that?
I think that's when you just go full blown, flipping clothes inside out, doing the rally cap, all the possible superstitions, putting ice cubes in the toilet, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's what you got to pull out at that point.
TJ, have you ever done something like this? Like this is insane. My wife, we would be divorced so fast if I made her watch Bryce Young.
This is my wife's idea, so she watched it. So here's what happened. I know we got to go. I know it's Christmas. So here's what happened. We were watching. I think it was the Dallas game, and they were down, or whatever. Like every game, feels like we've been down, and I'm like, and we just kept watching. They came back, and she's like, they won, and we're like, all right, great. And then she decided to watch another one, and then now we're like on this thing. She's like, every time I watch, they win, so I think I'm just gonna watch it. That's basically how it all happened. Because I was counting them out. I was like, oh, we're dead. Here we go again. And then all of a sudden, we started scoring points. Thank you, Dave Canales in the running game.
This is why it's better to be a Saints fan like myself, because I get to watch an exciting team lose and get a great draft pick, as opposed to a very unexciting team win but have no chance at a Super Bowl and get a mediocre draft pick. So we're feeling good with the Saints over here as opposed to our division rival, the Panthers.
You guys use a second round pick on a quarterback that's older than your current starter. And I am gladly choosing to be a Panthers.
I mean, sure, but if it was Tyler starting playing as good as Rattler right now, everyone would be talking about how great he is. So I'm happy with Rattler right now.
No, I love Kellen Moore. He's a dog.
I just want to sign off with Tyler Shuck was in college and roommates with Juwan Johnson once upon a time. Juwan Johnson has been in the NFL for like 5 years, and Tyler Shuck was roommates with him.
But, I have to pivot we'll get out back to Rattler because I can't defend that pick.
I love it. We'll get out of here. We'll get out of here. See you guys next week. Cheers.
It is time for some NFL crunch time. My name is TJ Zwarych, joined by Kyle Murray and Will Priester, the Chief. Chief, I'll throw it to you first. How you doing today? Give me your quick overview of the slate because we got to dive right into position by position.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a couple of really good games. I think there's some high-scoring offense that will actually be high-scoring. I don't get the sense that our high-scoring games are going to flame out this week. I think the points are coming, so that's something I'm really excited about from a DFS standpoint. I also feel like in these games where I feel like it's going to be pretty high-scoring on the main slate, there are viable options at various price ranges. And so that helps us out a ton, I think, from a lineup construction standpoint. So that gets me really excited. I'm really excited about this week and lineup construction. So that's where I am.
Kyle, how about you? How are you doing? And how are you feeling about week 7?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Feeling pretty good about the week. I think it's an interesting slate because it's one of those slates. I know Erik made the kind of joke about Coors Field, but we have like a very ownership consolidated slate where it looks like a lot of ownership is going to be on one game. And it is a fantastic game to target for sure. Obviously high team total with the Cowboys and Washington game. But nonetheless, there is a lot of ownership there. So it's a good spot to maybe either try to find ways to get different in that game or just get different by playing different games. So I think that's an interesting slate dynamic for sure.
Before we dive in, it's a perfect time to remind everybody that you can get yourself a 3-day pass for the RotoGrinders projections, the tools, SimLabs, Lineup HQ, all of it included along with the articles. Only $9.99 3-day pass. Plus, you can, if you want to play more sports than just NFL, get yourself some Combo Pro. You can get the first month for only $79.99. That's only $5 more than NFL. You get NBA, which is starting up this week. NHL, which has been, the NHL team has just been crushing it. College football, UFC, PGA, all of it. So make sure you check that out. Get yourself some Combo Pro, or if you don't want the commitment, get yourself a 3-day pass. Let's start talking position by position. We'll get to our top stacks, and then we'll take some questions. I'll go to the RotoGrinders live stream Discord first. I'll go to the YouTube chat second. YouTube, all we ask is that you hit that like button for us. Let's start at the quarterback position here. Kyle, I will go to you first today. We'll talk about the sites together. We'll talk about FanDuel and DraftKings both together, but we got 3 quarterbacks up top projecting for almost 50% of the ownership today, Kyle.
Yeah, yep. Kind of relays back to that, ownership consolidation. Obviously, Daniels and Dak are getting a lot of the love from the public. Mahomes just behind those guys in terms of ownership, slightly above Dak. But yeah, I think it makes it fairly easy to say if you're going into this slate, understanding that I'm going to stack a team that I just want to be contrarian with, you just simply don't go to that game or go to Patrick Mahomes. You have a couple good options. Obviously, I think all those three are fantastic here. Mahomes and Kansas City, they are significant favorites, 13.5-point favorites now. But this team is super pass heavy, right? They don't have much of a run game. They are, willing to ignore the run game. I think they are the most pass heavy team in neutral scripts in the NFL this season. So Mahomes, fantastic play. Daniels and Dak, obviously great plays as well. The guys I like outside of that, that kind of, lead me to some of my favorite stacks would be Justin Herbert with some of these Chargers pass catchers, and then Bo Nix. Those are probably my two favorite quarterbacks outside of those top three, rounding out like a good top five for me.
All right, Chief, how about you? Who are you prioritizing among these three expensive guys that are picking up some ownership? Dak, Daniels, Mahomes, and then who would be your favorite pivots off of these guys?
And Herbert's not too far behind. Herbert's in the mix. I must say, man, I've played Dak, I feel like, every week. TJ, you've seen my main build because we've been playing in the 4-man. And Dak and this Cowboys offense has just been, carrying me most weeks outside of the week I played CD and he got hurt. So I actually still like the Dallas game. I just think I'm going to build it differently. And I think that's how I'm going to get there. I feel like there's way less ownership on the Washington side of this game. So I think I'm going to play Dak and maybe one receiver and really get to the other side. I'm saying all that to say Dak is still my favorite quarterback this week. Bottom line, I'm going to kind of eat some of the ownership, and I'm going to build a little different in some other spots. I do think quarterbacks off the beaten path, like Bo Nix, are really good. He does. I feel like people are into him, but I think we just like this Dallas game so much more because of the environment. If we're talking about quarterbacks that we're maybe not as interested in, guys, how about Daniel Jones, who's been playing incredibly since going to Indianapolis, is continuing to consistently put up 20-plus fantasy points in most games this season, and is in another fairly high-scoring game. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the second highest predicted total on the main slate. I could be wrong. It's pretty close, though, I think. And so, for me, Daniel Jones in this particular game is very intriguing to me. Yeah, 48.5 total. Very intriguing to me on this slate as an alternate. When I talked about, I feel like these offenses are going to score points. The Chargers and the Colts, I think, are going to score points. So I love that game as well, and hardly any ownership on that one outside of JT.
Take me over to the running back position, Chief. I guess I'll give my takes quick here at the quarterback as well. I really like that Bo Nix called Drake May. So for what it's worth, I'm playing 20 lineups today, and I have 55% Jaden Daniels, 35% Dak Prescott, and then I have 2 Drake May lineups. I did end up just throwing in a couple Mahomes and Nix in there in a 3-entry max also, but I'm all in on Jaden Daniels and Dak Prescott this week. And then my top pivot is going to be Drake May, super low ownership. And I think we could get a situation where, like Mike Vrabel says, screw you guys to the Titans and just tries to drop 50 on them today. Let's pivot over to the running back position. Breece Hall is projecting really well, and he's projecting for a lot of ownership, as is Quinshon Judkins. I feel like in cash, those are both great options. In tournaments, I'm personally playing Judkins, and I'm going with the fade Breece Hall route. How about you, Chief? Talk to me about those two, and then who else you like at the running back spot.
Yeah, definitely think Judkins is in play big time. In terms of Breece Hall, in this game with Carolina, I think he's fine. I mean, he's 6,300. Projecting better than Judkins most places. I think he's fine. I will say these two aren't like at the top of my list today for what it's worth, TJ. So that's why I'm just, they're just okay to me. I'm actually, and this is a spot where I want to get a little bit different, trying to get contrarian here. I feel like nobody's playing Saquon this week. I don't know why. So I still think Saquon's got a ton of upside week to week to week, and I know we haven't quite seen it consistently this year yet, like last year. But I think that if he gets rolling in this game, they're at Minnesota, so they're in a controlled environment. I really like Saquon this week. He's one of my favorites. Obviously, I think something that's going overlooked is Williams in the run game here in the same spot in Dallas. So as much as I love that, I think the running game is going overlooked because people feel like they just want to gravitate towards the wide receiver side, and I don't disagree, but I still think Williams is a really, really good play this week. Once again, don't hate Judkins, but he's not going to be a primary for me. One last guy, and this is a guy I think is, let's call it sneaky this week, and that's Rico Dowdle. I know we're supposed to have this split backfield. I feel like hopefully my Panthers can go into New Jersey and play really well. But I mean, man, as well as he's played, how did they dial it back this week with Chuba coming off injury? I think Rico still has tons of upside, and I think the ownership is reflecting the split. The projections are reflecting the split, but I still think he's got tremendous upside.
All right, Kyle, how about you? How are you handling the Judkins and Breece Hall chalk, and then who else you playing at the running backs position?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a good chalk. Prefer to probably not bunch up and play multiple of these chalk options, especially if you loop in some of the spend up options at the running back position, just because then it gets difficult to really get unique, I suppose. But Judkins, I mean, his props are pretty wild. He has like a 20.5 rushing line for attempts, 92.5 yards. Obviously, the weather there is going to dictate a pretty run heavy approach there for the Browns. So I think Judkins is a really good play at 6K. Also, they pair well with the Browns defense. So that's a pretty solid option there. I think my favorite pivot from those two guys would be JCM in that Dallas-Washington game. I think a lot of people are going to look at some of these value pass catchers for Washington. Obviously, a lot of attention to the Dallas side as well. But JCM is a pivot that I like quite a bit, especially if you're not playing the passing attack from those two offenses. Kamani Vidal is also another pivot. We talked about Herbert a little bit. I think Herbert's a fantastic play with some of those Chargers pass catchers. But if you're not utilizing those guys, I think it makes sense to have some interest in Vidal, who is the clear, RB1 over Hassan Haskins last week, and he had a very strong game. So I would expect, similar volume and production there for Vidal. Not an ideal matchup, but again, I think volume will offset that. So those would be my top guys. And then, if you want to, absolutely drive yourself crazy, you can attack some of these Patriots running backs as well. I mean, I know it's almost impossible to play Henderson in anything that isn't a milli maker type construction, but I mean, it's just an ideal matchup. Tennessee has been an absolute sieve to running backs all year long. You look back, I think it was week 4 or week 5 when Woody Marks had his breakout game. That was against Tennessee. So I could see something similar for Trayvon Henderson if he can get the volume, but it's really difficult to count on him being on the field. So if you feel that it's going to be difficult for him to find playing time, I do think Ramondre Stevenson is also in a good spot here. So either one of those Patriots running backs.
Jonathan Taylor is going to be my main guy. He's my highest owned running back today. And then I'm kind of mixing in Judkins, Bill, and Javonte Williams, dependent on the rest of my lineup construction. Don't mind DeAndre Swift as a cheapie. I like the Kamani Vidal call. And then I do have some Ramondre Stevenson as well, as absolutely terrible as it feels. Kyle, how much are you going to prioritize Emmanuel Wilson if we get Josh Jacob, who's currently a game time decision, dealing with an illness, dealing with a calf? How are you going to handle Emmanuel Wilson if we get Josh Jacobs out?
Yeah, I think it'll be tough because a lot of this chalk locks up pretty early. So that will make things difficult. I think from a game theory perspective, you can kind of, backload some of that value in hopes that you do get Jacobs out and then people just aren't able to make the swap. I do think that Emmanuel Wilson's not going to step in and be a workhorse running back. They're going to use Christopher Brooks. They elevated Pierre Strong. So they'll use other guys. I also think they'll throw more if Josh Jacobs is out. So I don't think he's, going to be a guy who's projecting for 15, 16 fantasy points like some of these other guys in that range, but he'll certainly be a significant value option. And I do think that he'll likely come in at much lower ownership than he would if Jacobs had already been ruled out at this point. So I think it's all about a game theory play there for Wilson. But I guess bottom line is it is fairly difficult to prioritize him right now.
Here's your next question then. Say this is the flex position, and then Chief, before we talk receivers, I want to get your thoughts on the same thing. Assuming Josh Jacobs is out, how would you rank Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, and Emmanuel Wilson?
Sorry.
That was for me, TJ, right? That Kyle?
Either one. I said Kyle first.
You go, Kyle, because you were already talking, so I'll take it later.
Yeah, for me, it would be Emmanuel Wilson, then it would be a pretty significant teardrop. Then it would be Chris Moore, and then it would be Luke McCaffrey, and then Jalen Lane.
Chief, how about you?
I'm pretty close. I think I got McCaffrey one tick higher, but other than that, I think pretty much the same.
That's mostly what I'm thinking as well. Like I'm playing so much of this afternoon slate, especially this Washington-Dallas game. I think I'm just going to take one of these receivers and swap it to Emmanuel Wilson if we get the news of him being out there. Kyle, I'll go with you first for receiver, and then Chief, I'll get your receiver takes after. We'll pivot to tight end. Who are you prioritizing in general? We've talked about the cheap options. Now talk to me about this Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens tier. How are you prioritizing those guys? And then, of course, we got Rashee Rice, who's looking like a mega chalk option today as well.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead. Sorry, Kyle. Go ahead.
No worries. For CeeDee Lamb up at the top, I think he's going to be quite popular, rightfully so. Obviously, fantastic matchup game environment. Looks elite with the highest total by a wide margin on the board. I think if you wanted to poke holes in him, you could say, okay, maybe they're going to take it easy on him with the ankle injury, but I think it's probably unrealistic that they roll him out there at anything less than what they're willing to be, 90 to 100% at least on passing plays. So CeeDee Lamb at 7.5, you can argue he should be an 8K player. When he was out, Dak was playing at an MVP caliber. So I think having him step back in is only going to help that offense. Jefferson's the easy pivot off of him there at 7.6, natural price pivot there, but do prefer CeeDee Lamb quite a bit, projects over 2 points higher. And then Rashee Rice, the chalk gets to a point where you can kind of make a case for it. Like, I know there's been a lot of buzz about Rashee Rice. Obviously, he's a fantastic player, but they still have a lot of mouths to feed there. They still have Xavier Worthy, who's not going to go anywhere. They still have Kelsey, they're going to, probably be stubborn and continue to throw the ball to. So I think Rashee Rice is probably the guy who I'm most willing to fade here. It's certainly a horrifying fade, but he's definitely the guy I'm most willing to potentially pivot off of here.
Chief, how about you? What are you doing with this expensive tier? We got the two Dallas guys. We got Justin Jefferson. And then how are you handling Rashee Rice? Probably going to be 40 plus, 50 plus % owned in single entry this week.
I think the question for me is how much do you think this Dallas offense really goes nuts today compared to how they've done? Because I think there's an argument for me that I actually just play CeeDee Lamb and Pickens together. If I really think this game is going nuclear, I think I just play Dak, I play CeeDee, I play George Pickens. And I don't think you'll see a lot of that in tournaments. So, Kyle, I'm going to ask Kyle this question, then I'll promise I'll get to my other guys. Kyle, I don't think we see that in tournaments much. I don't think we see Dak, CeeDee, and Pickens. I think people are going one or the other. And if this game is an explosion, I technically don't need them both to score touchdowns. I need one to score touchdowns, and I need one to have 5-6 catches for 120 yards or something, and the other one to maybe have 6 for 80 and 2. Do you get what I'm saying? And now I've still captured all the upside. One just got a bunch of the yards, and one did most of the scoring. And Dak still threw for 320 and 3 or something like that. Just gonna throw that question at you. I'm really strongly considering CeeDee and George together today to be really different. So I don't think we'll see it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think naturally I would agree that people tend to not stack up too high price receivers like that, especially because Pickens is overpriced. He's been priced based on Lamb being out. Yep. So people I think will be reluctant to pay that price tag for Pickens. I do think that it might be a little bit more popular than it normally would because of how cheap you have. You have 3 sub 4K guys on the Washington side, but I still think it'll be fairly unique because I don't think many people will play Pickens and Lamb together.
Okay. Those are my thoughts on the Dallas guys. Admittedly, obviously, I think you can play Justin Jefferson every week. So I like him quite a bit. I think my next favorite guy, I mean, once again, and you remember I'm talking about this game because of the situation here. The next highest total is Colts Chargers, and nobody's really on this game. I mean, we just saw Ladd McConkey go nuts, and I think this game should be fairly competitive. So I don't see. I mean, Ladd's getting some ownership. Don't get me wrong, but I just think he's another guy. If the targets are there, he should have a pretty good game. So I like him quite a bit at 6K. Obviously, I like all the cheap receivers from Washington. I am planning to play Luke McCaffrey over Chris Moore, but I do plan to play Chris Moore. So I want to make that very clear. I mean, he's 3K in this environment. I don't think there's any reason to not play Chris Moore today. In the Green Bay game, I know we were talking about kind of what do they do if Josh Jacobs is out? Does the passing game pick up? Maybe. Obviously, Matthew Golden at 4,700, I think would be really good. Romeo Doubs, I think, will be fine. I think Dotavian Wicks will be fine. I think I just kind of mix and match those guys. And they're also cheap. I heard some Courtland Sutton talk on our main flagship show. Love Courtland Sutton today at 5,900. I think this is an incredible spot for him. Him and Ladd are kind of my two in that 5K, 6K range that I like the most. And then last but not least, I know we've got some weather somewhat in the Chicago-New Orleans game. Still think Chris Olave is still underpriced. I just at 5,400, I think he's in consideration every week.
I think Quentin Johnston and Courtland Sutton are my two favorite pivots off of Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
And then I love Rome Odunze as well, but I'm going to be living and dying by the Dallas and Washington game today. I have 88% CeeDee Lamb. I have 56% George Pickens, and I have over 45% Chris Moore, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane. So I'm just fully living and dying by that game today, and then getting pretty close to even on the field for Rashee Rice.
Can I throw one more in there?
Yeah, absolutely.
That I think is going significantly overlooked this week based on a 1 week performance where we absolutely saw his uptick in targets, market share, and that's Stephon Diggs. Nobody's playing Stephon Diggs today. I get it. Like, it's at Tennessee, but last I checked, he's the number one guy in his offense. I don't care about last week. Stephon Diggs is 5,600. He could easily put up 20 today. I like Diggs also.
I got one Diggs with my Drake May team, so I don't mind that whatsoever. Chief, who do you like at tight end today? This, honestly, I think might be the best tight end slate of the season so far. We have, to me, 3 sub 4K options that are just incredible. And then there's nothing wrong with paying up for a Trey McBride, a Tyler Worgan, or a Jake Ferguson. Who do you like today at tight end?
I guess if I'm going up top today, I think it's Jake Ferguson for me in that game, and he's the one guy getting very low ownership. I think one of the obvious ones, Tyler Warren in the Chargers game, which I've talked about. I really love that game today. By the way, if we see Josh Jacobs sit, I'm gonna have way more interest in Tucker Kraft than I should. But if he's in, I may not have as much. Obviously, then you talked about going down to the bottom. You got Ertz, you got Mayer, you got a ton of guys here. I think you just take whoever fits in your stack or fits with your build out of that group, and you roll from there. I think if there's anybody that's, let's call it, sneaky on this slate, maybe it's Travis Kelce. Maybe, like, I don't really like Travis Kelce. His production's come way down.
Like you said, Ferguson is your favorite. Ferguson is a very sneaky option today.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is Ferguson's in like the obvious game. Ferguson's an obvious game. Kelce is now in a situation where he probably should be the third or fourth option, and you know how this goes. He's been overlooked, and then he comes out and has 4 catches for 40 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then all of a sudden, he looks like he had a way better game than he actually did. But that's my reason for Kelsey. With all these options, he should be running wild.
Kyle, would you agree that Zach Ertz is kind of the clear cash option this week? Or do you think it's McBride? Just one of those two, I guess.
I would probably say it's Michael Mayer. At least if you're spending now, I think Mayer's. We project Mayer better than.
I guess looking
Ertz.
at that now, yeah, you're right. We do have Mayer's projection higher.
Yeah, I mean, I think his projection improved pretty significantly even this morning. Obviously, with Brock Bowers being out or doubtful all week, but then with Jacoby Myers also out, the volume should be pretty significant for Michael Mayer. So I would say he's probably the cash game tight end. I guess I can see some people maybe spending up for McBride, but I think that was more so an earlier in the week sort of discussion with Marvin Harrison when he was looked like he was more questionable with that concussion, but he's good to go. So yeah, I think it's going to be Michael Mayer as the cash game guy, and I think he's a fantastic play. I think there's a lot of good plays at tight end this week, and I think that'll actually pull away from some of the ownership for Mayer. I think in smaller field stuff he'll be pretty popular, but if you're looking to get off of him, I mean, Zach Ertz is a good pivot. I think he's going to be lower owned than Michael Mayer, $300 more. Harold Fannin, I mean, you think you take David Njoku out of the equation. Obviously, Cedric Tillman's been out for a couple weeks, and nobody's really playing Harold Fannin, who had a good week last week, scored 15 DraftKings points, had 7 catches on 10 targets, but the weather is just scaring people off of Fannin. They are certainly going to run the ball more, but you'd think that when they're passing, Fannin might be the number 1 target today because of that. It's probably going to be shorter down the field passing, smaller A-dot type plays. So Fannin could benefit from that. Mason Taylor at 3-4. Again, you'd probably think he'd be a guy who'd be pretty popular with Garrett Wilson out. And I mean, he's had, I know, bad week last week, but before that, 19 targets in the 2 games before that. So Mason Taylor, I think, is also a value pivot option. So I think there's plenty of pretty strong plays here. And then I also do like Travis Kelce as well. I think people are going to be playing Mahomes a lot, and they're going to be using just Rashee Rice or maybe Rashee Rice and Worthy. But I think if you're going to play Mahomes, you got to get at least 3 or 4 total touchdowns. Maybe he runs one in. So if you're going to do that, you're going to bank on a Rashee Rice 2 or 3 touchdown game? Probably not. So I think it makes perfect sense to be stacking up Mahomes with 2 guys. And Kelce is probably the 3rd option behind Worthy, I think, in terms of my favorites on for DFS today. So I think Kelsey's also in play.
We are almost on the same page at tight end. I love Harold Fannin. I think that's a great call, and I love Mason Taylor as well. I do prefer Ertz over Mayer, though, and I think he's probably going to come in significantly higher owned. I think we're going to end up seeing like 20+% ownership for Ertz at the tight end position today. But all of those guys, Ertz, Fannin, Taylor, Mayer, I just think they're all incredible plays today, and I don't really think you have to go over 4K at a tight end spot. Quickly, defenses, Kyle, who would be your cash defense, and then who are your just top tournament options?
Yeah, cash defense is always a fun question to answer. I think Browns would probably be my cash defense, I suppose. Broncos, I guess if you're able to spend up a little bit more for it at 3.5, but I don't necessarily love that one. I think the Dolphins are a good value option in that weather game. I mean, 34.5 game total in this one. I think both defenses are really strong options. And then Panthers at 2.5. Obviously, no Garrett Wilson, I think, hurts this team quite a bit. Again, I want to make sure that's not in a Breece Hall lineup for the most part, but at 2.5, I would say the Panthers are probably my favorite punt defense.
Like that a lot. I'll throw in basically I like the expensive tier of Patriots, Packers, Chiefs. And then if you're trying to get very sneaky, I don't hate the Colts today. Chargers still down a lot of offensive linemen. No Joe Alt. I don't hate this spot for the Colts defense. Chief, how about you? Top defensive priorities today.
I really like Denver. I think they're in a good spot at home today. Obviously, the Patriots, we've seen Tennessee just have some struggles, so don't mind them. I'm okay with Cleveland also. I think they're fine, and our good friend Kyle mentioned the Panthers at 2,500. I could definitely get behind a cheap Panthers defense today. But all in all, the Broncos are my favorite defense of the day so far. Ultimate mute, my brother.
accidentally unmuted myself on my laptop instead of my desktop, and that doesn't matter because my laptop version of me is not on the screen right now. But there it is. Hi. Stacks talking quarterback and two plus pass catchers today. Chief, I'll throw it to you first. Who are you most likely to be stacking up in your tournament lineups?
Man, I talked about it earlier. Am I going to do Dak and both of these expensive pass catchers? I think that's something I would like to do. If I don't get to that, I'm still building my single entry team, even though I know we got 9 minutes. I'm flip-flopping some stuff around. It's probably going to be Dak, one big receiver, and 2 of the cheap Washington guys, for what it's worth. It's one or the other, though.
So I will say 45% of my lineups have both have both Pickens and Lamb today. I'm going heavy on that stack. So if that goes well, both you and I are going to be making some money. It's Washington 1 for me, Dallas 2, and then a tier 3 of the Patriots, the Broncos. I don't mind the Eagles. I like the Chiefs. Kyle, how about you? Who are your top stacks?
Yeah, I think obviously all the chalk Chiefs. I mean, I think Chiefs is a 2-man stack could actually be a little bit contrarian. I think Rice is obviously going to be popular, but that's whoever you're stacking additionally with Rice and Mahomes, I think will be a little bit of a leverage play. Both offenses in the Dallas game, Dak with CD, George Pickens, Ferguson, 2 of those 3 guys, and then Daniels with any of those value guys, I think are my top 3 like optimal stacks. Contrarian stacks I like Bo Nix with Sutton and Mims, and then I also like Justin Herbert I prefer Johnson and McConkey. So I think those are probably my top 5 favorite stacks here. Also love the Daniel Jones call, by the way, with Pittman and Warren. I think that's a fantastic stack here.
You can throw in some Alec Pierce too as a really nice pivot off of those Washington guys. No Josh Downs. He might get a few more shots downfield his way today. Let's give a slate breaking play. Who is the player that we think is going to break the slate? And then after that, let's start taking some questions. I will go to the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat first, rotogrinders.com/Discord. Get your questions in there. Then I will go to the YouTube chat second. YouTube, smash the like button. Help us battle that YouTube algorithm. Help us grow the community. Help us keep the lights on as I continuously have to ban more bots here in the YouTube chat. Come on, YouTube, help us out. We got people hitting the like button. All we ask from you, YouTube, is that you help slow down these bots for us. But Kyle, who's breaking the slate tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Bill Krosky Merritt here. I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of love for this game, and I think he's the one maybe getting overlooked because of how popular these value guys on Washington are. He'll certainly still have some ownership. And obviously Jaden Daniels being popular, but I mean, if Washington's going to score 3-4 touchdowns and JCM gets 2 of them, I certainly think he'll break the slate on his own, but also by taking points away from other options that the field's playing. So I like Bill Krosky Merritt today.
All right, Chief, how about you?
Man, I think I got to go to this Chargers Colts game, man. I know I keep talking about it. Give me Daniel Jones. Give me Daniel Jones. This game is just, I think it's incredibly sneaky. It's another late night hammer, if you will, and nobody wants to play the Colts today. Give me Daniel Jones at 6K.
It's not very contrarian, but I'm going with CeeDee Lamb today. I do see a potential that people get scared off a little bit. First game coming back from the injury. I think we are going to see full CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb, full go today. He'd probably be about $1,000 more expensive on this slate if he wasn't coming off that injury. And I think he's going to have a big game today. Got him in 90% of my lineup. So I'm going with CeeDee Lamb. Start taking some questions here. Going to the RotoGrinders live stream Discord first. Then I'm going to the YouTube chat. FanDuel Cash, who is your top QB today, Kyle? And why is it Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, for cash, it's probably Jaden Daniels. I think Mahomes is close, but on FanDuel for Daniels.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point too. I feel like Mahomes a little bit cheaper on the FanDuel call, so that's a good point there. Next question, as I'm flipping back and forth between 12 different streams. Chief, what do you think about Ashton Genty today? Not a name that we've mentioned.
Not thrilled about Genty. I definitely think they're going to be in a script where they have to throw the ball. So if you're playing Ashton Genty today, I think you're playing him hoping that he's super involved in the passing game. And I'm not playing it that way.
FanDuel GPP, Kyle, Rico Dowdle, Brees Hall, or Quinshawn Judkins?
You said FanDuel? Judkins of FanDuel. Yeah.
FanDuel GPP, Chief, Ramondre Stevenson, or RJ Harvey?
Oh, man. I guess give me Ramondre and hope that the Patriots take care of business.
Yeah, I don't think RJ Harvey is somebody you can be considering today. Josh Jacobs and Cortland Sutton, or Jonathan Taylor and Jalen Waddle, Kyle?
First one.
Just keep in mind that when you're building that you need to have a pivot ready. Maybe it's CeeDee Lamb, but you got to have a pivot ready for Josh Jacobs just in case he doesn't play. Top cash play, 4,400 or under at wide receiver. That would be Luke McCaffrey. FanDuel GPP, Chief, Addison, Diggs, or Pittman?
I'm going Diggs, man. I like Diggs today.
5,700 or less on the FanDuel Flex, Kyle. Doesn't say the format.
You said 5,700?
Yeah.
Let's go with Ramondre, I suppose, at 57. Unless I'm missing a big name, but yeah, Ramondre probably.
And this one's for me from Jose. For cash on Yahoo, Golden and Vidal, or Moore and Merritt? That is definitely Chris Moore and Bill for that one. Moore and Merritt. Chief, what are your thoughts on fading Judkins on FanDuel?
I mean, you can if you want, especially if it's a tournament.
Kyle, Boston Strong wants to know, should I play Achan in 50% of my lineups?
Probably not 50. I think people might be docking him a bit too much with the weather, but probably not 50%. I think that's a little aggressive.
It's just one of those things that, like, I like him a lot more on DraftKings and FanDuel, but it kind of feels like no one's been able to run on Cleveland so far. But with this weather, he might catch 12 passes. You know, like, it definitely feels like one of those days that, yeah, he won't run, but he might have enough receiving points that it doesn't matter. Yeah. Chief, Addison, Worthy, or Waddle and Olave, FanDuel GPP?
Give me Addison, Worthy.
DK Cash, Kyle, Olave, Ertz, and the Panthers, or Brees, Chris Moore, and the Saints?
For cash, it's probably second one.
Rico. Oh my God. Come on, Alex. You can't be giving us a 4-person question for your flex spots in season long. Rico Dowdle, Emmanuel Wilson, Pollard, Franklin. I would just plug in Rico there. FanDuel GPP, Ferguson or Scatabo? Chief, Ferguson or Scatabo? I feel like that's got to be Scatabo there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke McCaffrey or Moore, FanDuel GPP, just straight up raw points. You're looking at Christian McCaffrey as Christian. Yeah, that would obviously be Luke McCaffrey as probably the top option there. FanDuel Cash, Kyle, Brees Hall and CeeDee Lamb, or Javonte Williams and George Pickens?
First one.
Fading Hall and DK Cash for Bill. Honestly, like, Hall is the clear cash option, but maybe it's my tournament mind saying yes, but I don't mind going Bill instead. Henry, Diggs, and May for tournament. Sure. And that is lock. And we have reached lock. Jacobs or Taylor for FanDuel. That is a question that is after lock, so that works. I would be definitely going Jonathan Taylor in that one, especially with the injury considered. Chief, is it a double tight end week or a triple running back week?
I would say triple running back in this particular case.
Is Daniels, Moore, Ertz, and Bill too much. No, not at all. You can play 4, 5, 6 Washington players on DraftKings today if you want. Kyle, anything else for the people before we get out of here?
No, I think we covered it. But yeah, again, just make sure. Obviously, I know we hit lock already, but anyone who played Jacobs or who's behind later in the slate, make sure you guys are utilizing late swap because there's going to be a lot of ownership in that 4 o'clock game. So if you are, if you have some duds in your lineup in the 1 o'clocks, pivot off of the 4 o'clock games, at least the chalky ones, or be prepared to maybe get some Emmanuel Wilson if need be. So I think today could be a big late swap slate. So keep that in mind.
Very well said. That'll do it for today's early show. Smash the like button on the way out if you have not already done so. You can catch Chief and I later tonight. Sunday night football. We have, I'm going to be honest, I haven't even checked what game it is yet tonight. But Chief and I are going to be
man. I was it's a good game, TJ.
What do we have? I missed that.
Niners.
It's a good game. Yeah.
All right. That should be a lot of fun. We'll be breaking it down. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in for any of our shows today. On behalf of myself, Kyle, and Chief, we will see you next time